Yep.
Less than 30 seconds now in regulation. Could this take extra time? 16 seconds. Here's Dyal. Send it up the point, Jay Lalu. Call midget now, but Matt, 6 seconds, 5, Dalfan coming out. He gets around him, 2 seconds. He's got to do it quick. Shoot, the scores, 1 second left.
It has been far, far, far too long since we've done
Jesus
this.
Christ.
Far, far too long.
Oh,
and here it is.
back
I
at it
remember,
again,
I remember
Daniel.
making the post, right? Making the post that said, yeah, you know, next episode we'll talk about RSL and JSL stuff, right? Because
Oh,
this
it's
was
last year.
this was 2 months ago, and you know that next episode is today. So here we are,
Woo!
almost 2 months later. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad we could get another episode back. Like I said, for those of you who read the thread, you know what I'm about to say. For those of you who didn't, I just want to apologize for not doing more of these shows frequently here. Also, give me a shout out in chat if the volume is not great. Like if I'm louder than Dick Doug or whatever the deal is, I'll try to fix that. 'Cause I don't know since we've done any of this, but yeah, sorry for not getting more of these out in the last 2 months, but it's been rough. It's been rough. Been a rough time trying to get everything together, and these shows take a lot of preparation work. So unfortunately, not able to get a whole lot going on. But I think we're gonna try to do one more episode before the end of the season, and then
Probably before the LHL finals and the RSL finals. Hopefully, there's a nice little date that correlates.
I like to do either right before or right after and do like a season in review type thing. But I want to do one more this season, at least one more, maybe two if we can fit it in. We'll see. I don't want to promise that though, because I got a lot going on coming up in about a month. So, but
It's all
yeah,
Dal's fault.
yeah, you can blame me. You can blame me almost entirely. It's rough.
Fucking bum.
It's a bad time for me. Like I'm usually trying to do stats and everything right now, and that takes like a long time on its own. I'm trying to do this at the same time, and there's homework, and it's rough stuff, man. Rough stuff, man. But we are here. We are here. We're live, and we're gonna try to speed this up a little bit more than we used to. I feel like I say this every time, and we never do it. But but we're actually gonna try to speed this up a little bit. So we'll run through
We're
the
not gonna name.
agenda
No,
here.
it's not gonna be sped up. We're gonna take the usual 3 hours to do this. So,
Well,
buckle in for the.
with RSL and JSL stuff to talk about too, it'll be a while, but I'm hoping to keep it to at max 2 hours, even with the RSL JSL stuff. So, but we'll see how that goes. So, try to keep it as short as possible. We're gonna go through week 8 of the LHL, which really didn't experience a whole lot, as we had All Stars tonight, which we'll talk about briefly. We'll do our usual team by team analysis. If anybody wants to come on and talk about their teams, again, I did not set up. Yeah, anyone except Lucic. I did not set up interviews with anybody up to this point in time. So if anybody is interested that is watching, we'd love to have you on. That goes for RSL and JSL stuff, which we're going to get into as well. We will bring back predictions. I know we did not do that on the last episode that we did. To the dismay of, I think it was BG who was very upset about that.
Yeah, I was pretty upset too. I'm beating you, aren't I?
Honestly, we've only done one set of them this season, and I'm not keeping track of it. But you beat me by 1 game last season, and by I think 2 games the season before. Or no, we tied the season before. So you have me by 1 game right now,
bro,
between the past 2 seasons.
So I'm beating you. That's all that has to matter. I'm beating you.
You beat me by 1. I haven't done this season yet, so we'll see. I don't know. I don't know, man.
I'm beating him.
Anyway, so we'll do the predictions, and then once we're done with that, I want to go through RSL
Wait,
and
don't we do
JSL
predictions last?
Normally, yeah, we're gonna end off the LHL section with the predictions, but I do want to touch on
Okay.
RSL and JSL, and we're just gonna leave that until after we've gone through all the LHL stuff. So, sorry to those of you who are looking forward to that. It's gonna be a little while. All right, so give me a sec here, and I will pull up the past week's games. Man, it has been so long since I've done this. Alright, so week 8, we really did not have a whole lot going on, as you can see here. Coming into it, we had a Boston-Edmonton game, which ended up getting rescheduled, and I need to pull this up a little bit more, don't I? Yeah, there we go. Alright, so we had a Boston-Edmonton game, which ended up getting rescheduled to Tuesday. The only other true LHL game that got played on Sunday was Philadelphia and Florida, and that was actually an elimination game for Florida. They did lose 4-3. I think Florida gave up a goal in the closing minutes of the third period to give Philly the lead, and they were not able to get it back. Matt was there, I'm pretty sure, for what that's worth. Pretty sure Matt was there. But yeah, unfortunate for them. Honestly surprised that they weren't eliminated earlier with the way their season started. So,
Damn, just fucking dropping the mad rounds.
they started, what was it, 0-12 or something, I think it was, and they've done much better since then. But on the whole, not a great season for that team. As
No.
we'll get into that a bit more in the team by team review. So Washington and Toronto also rescheduled. That is yet to be played. I believe it's supposed to be on Tuesday of this upcoming week, but there's no formal time set for that, so I don't want to make any what's the word I'm trying to say here? I don't confirm anything, we'll put it that way. So,
Sure.
but I would expect that game to take place on Tuesday is what I'm hearing. Then we had the NADT Washington game, which Washington did not show up, so it's going to go down as a forfeit for the NADT, which I think is their 4th win of the season. So, woo, woo, get hype, dude, get hype, woo, woo.
Let's get some fucking hype in the chat. Can I get a cap in the chat?
NADT.
NADT. No, we're not touching it.
So coming into Tuesday, we had 3 games to play. Dick unfortunately did not get to play in the 2 LHL ones, but you did get to play in the NATT game, right?
I played in the one that mattered, so.
Oh yes, the true game. So
Yep.
we took we took the game versus Edmonton 2-1. Philly, another 4-3 game, this time in overtime against Toronto, which gave them their playoff spot. First time I think they've held a playoff spot in several weeks. They may have held it early on in the season, very early on, but they quickly lost it. Is the top 4 were kind of cemented there for a while, and Philly's gone on a pretty.
Fucking spitting it out.
Look, man, I could get way more savage than that. Let's be real here.
That's true. You're kind of a cunt, but anyways, let's go on.
So we'll get into it a bit later, but yeah, Philly on an excellent run right now, finally finding themselves in a playoff spot. So big deal for them. Toronto does have 1 game in hand, and they're behind. We'll take a look at the standings here in a second. Washington beat Edmonton 4-1. I believe Claude was not there, but everyone else was there. Not a great night from Edmonton. A bit of flashes to the very beginning of the season where they struggled a bit and then went on a really big, I think, 6-game to climb back into it. And they've held 2nd seed now for a while, and they still hold 2nd seed despite that loss there to Washington. And then we closed out the night with games Boston versus Florida. We took that game 5-1, and then we took the NADT game 8-2. A bit unfortunate there for the NADT was actually, if you take a look back, I'll scroll up a bit here, you can start to see like their scores really were getting better throughout the course of the season. Actually, take a look at the win. Take a look at the win there, beating Washington 4-2 in a game. That is that was their first legitimate win, and then they beat Philadelphia in their second legit win, 2-1 as well. So, but yeah, NADT on the whole definitely getting better as the season went on. I mean, it started off with some pretty lopsided scores as we come up here into the early weeks, but you can take a look now, like week 3 here, we got 4-3 loss, 5-1, okay, not great, 5-2, not great, 2-1 loss, 5-3 loss isn't bad. 2-1 loss, 3-1 loss, 4-3 in overtime loss, 4-2 win, 4-1 loss. So you can see gradually they are getting better throughout the course of the season, and I do think outside of that one game we just played against them, that they are really showing improvement, and that's awesome because that means that the Dial Fans project has worked, I think, and that was a big point of contention. And there's a lot of people that really didn't see the benefit in doing the NATT because they didn't think we'd see any results from it, and I do think so far actually we are seeing the benefits up to this point, and I'm really interested to see where some of those players end up next season. BG especially, who doesn't believe he's getting enough ice time.
He's kind of a bum, but yeah.
BG, we will talk about the RSL scoring.
No, we won't.
We will get there. We will get there. I promise. All right, so let's take a look at the standings and how the playoff hunt is shaping out right now. Oh my goodness, that is very strange. I'm not sure why the schedule is showing up in the background there. Hold on. All right, it's fixed. We're good. So we got just the standings there. So you can see we, Boston, have now locked up the President's Trophy. Yay.
You're fucking. Are you still dismayed we didn't beat the record? Like, are you still mad about that?
Well, I would have liked to had the best win percentage of all time, yeah. For those who are unaware of what Dick is talking about, which will be everybody except for maybe BG watching, we had a potential chance to have the best win percentage ever for an LHL team, and Dick Dug threw that, so I was pretty annoyed.
Like liquid. I fucking threw it like liquid.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that, man?
Just call everyone else Luminosity and call me liquid.
Oh, I hate you. You don't even play CS. I hate you.
I'm fucking the best.
I hate you. Anyway, so nonetheless, we did secure the President's Trophy, which is pretty cool. We don't have any other teams that have secured a playoff spot as of yet. Edmonton is in second. They are one win away from getting or guaranteeing themselves a playoff spot. I believe Washington, if they win in regulation and Philly and Toronto both lose in any capacity, then they clinch as well. So Philly and Toronto at this point pretty much battling it out for fourth. I don't believe we'll see too much change in the standings. We may see Edmonton and Washington flip-flop around and Philly and Toronto flip-flop, but I would be very surprised to see Philly and Toronto both make it in at this point in time. You'd have to see a bit of a collapse there from Washington or Edmonton, and given how they've looked over the course of the season, I just don't really see that happening. So big games here at the end of the season. Toronto does have one game in hand over Philly. Washington also does have one game in hand over Edmonton, so things to consider there. As Washington and Toronto, as we said, that reschedule game I believe is going to take place on Tuesday at some point. Possibly, maybe, probably.
Probably not.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows at this point, dude? Whew. I'm like having trouble with this chair. The arm on my chair is loose. Like the right arm on my chair, so every time like I go to put my arm on the edge of the chair and it slides off, my whole right arm just like falls and it messes everything up. It's I wish I could show this to you because it's really annoying. Like I really need to touch my arm up on this chair.
We should do an Uwu podcast.
I'll try to set that up for next season, so see if we can get that rolling. But yeah, congrats to Florida, who was on a 12-game losing streak, and since then they're 5-5. So props to them. Props to them. Excellent run there at the end of the season.
They tried. They did give it their best.
Yeah, they are not the worst game or the worst team ever, which is nice. So, and going off that,
what is the worst team ever?
Minnesota Wild, season 5. They won 2 games.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was not. It was not pretty. They won 2 games out of I think it's 21, and they have like the worst stats ever in terms of like goals against and goals scored. It's bad. It was a 4v4 season, so keep that in mind. But
oh yeah, that's right. That was the season you and Matt just scored your way to the cup.
Yeah. Yeah, we averaged over 6 goals a game as a team.
Game 4, 9-8. Good fucking game.
Yeah,
GG.
game 4 of the finals we won 9-8, and I think it was game 3 of the finals we won 11-5. So it was
That was obviously before the mercy rule. So
no, there was mercy rule back then, but I believe mercy rule was 8
it was
goals
8. It was 8.
in
Yeah.
4v4. But yeah, Matt and I being on a team together is a big part of the reason why we decided to go to 5v5. This is a little bit ridiculous. We won that season with Stu Walton in net, so you know.
There's the reason why I was 9-8 in game 4.
Yeah, yeah. Let's not talk about it. I think K-Bomb still gets upset because he couldn't be there for the games where we actually won the cup. So anyway, so getting back to the season, I'm gonna pull out the team by team stuff here, and we will start. We'll start with Boston, right? We gotta get back into the podcast. We gotta start it off right, right?
The circle jerk.
No. We gotta start it off right with the circle jerk. We gotta start it off perfectly. So
should we get PK or Dal for someone in here?
No, it's okay. I think the two of us can do it enough here as it is. So
I'm out of practice with the circle jerk. There we go.
Basically, we're amazing, right? I mean, that's
fucking the best. Oh my god, we are so good.
Oh.
Like honestly, I can't handle it.
I hate having to talk about ourselves. That's why we're gonna keep this to about 2 to 3 minutes max, and then we're
2 to 3 hours. He means
to the next.
It's okay.
To the next team. So we're guaranteed first seed, which means we will play the 4th seed. Very likely to be Philly or Toronto, both of which I believe we own the season series with. But I think Philly's won 2 games against us now, so. Definitely keeping it close, and that's 2 of our 5 losses too have been to them. So I think if I had to pick at this point, I guess I'd pick Toronto, right, based on the fact that that we've played them better, I guess. But I don't know. At the same time, I don't want to face any of these teams. I'd rather just get a bye right into the finals, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. So
no, it's not how we work this league though.
They make us earn it, dude. I don't like this. The President's Trophy should mean that we should just win. Like we should do the Russian style where they just do like round robin and no playoffs, and the team who comes in first at the end of the round robin, which is the regular season or the tournament, I suppose they call it there, that just wins. So, but unfortunately, that's not how it works here. And in all honesty, I do prefer it that way. So. But yeah, I think the 2 main points of concern for our team right now would be the issues with PK having work. So Sully forced into playing a bit more than what I think he expected or what any of us on the team expected. But he stepped up and done well for us when we needed him to be there, and we've still been able to get wins with him in net, and it hasn't been an issue up to this point in time. So. But we'll see. You know, playoffs are a much different situation, and he's definitely going to be asked to start some games there. So that will be a point of, I would say, concern. Not necessarily extreme concern, but certainly something to think about moving forwards. And also, there's the Canadian ping issue, right? Which I know some of you in chat may be dealing with as well, along with Dick Doug, where I believe it's everybody who has Bell. As their
everyone has Bell.
ISP. I think we've narrowed it down to that. For some reason, gets a start amount of ping. You get like 100 more than normal, right?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Yeah, that's how long has that been going on?
Since Friday. It's been almost a whole week.
Damn. That's rough. Yeah, I know Matt said something about it. I know Leafs has said something about it. Sammy, I can't remember. I don't think Dildo has said anything about it, or Otto, or Fat Squirrel, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But again, I think it has something to do with the Bell ISP. Be willing to bet that was the problem. I have no idea what it is. We've asked Kulixer to look into it. I know he's tried to, but I don't think he's been able to find anything, and unfortunately we don't have a fix for that right now, and that really sucks, especially for Toronto, who's fighting for that playoff spot, and they need their GM. They need Leafs out there, one of the better players on the team. So, whereas we don't need Dick Doug because he's just a trash can. So,
I've held the team on my back long enough that I can't do it anymore. It's broken. Like, there's only one set of
Your
footprints in
back
the
is broken?
sand.
The team
Yeah,
is
because
broken.
I've been carrying. My back is broken.
Is that what you call it?
Mm-hmm.
Carrying. Your
Yeah.
2 goals on the season.
Don't only have 2
That's
goals.
carrying, right? Yeah, you only have 2 goals.
I have 12 assists though, so I've set them up.
You do have more
Set 'em up,
assists than
boy.
me right now, which is annoying. I gotta check.
I'm better than you. I'm a better team player.
Sure, dude.
I'm a much better team player.
Anyway, all right. So we'll shift gears. We'll go to Edmonton because I want to keep moving through this, and I don't like spending a lot of time on our team. So I'm hoping at some point we're not on the same team anymore. That way we can actually talk about each other's
Oh, that's
teams
never
and
gonna
not
happen.
have to
That's
just like.
never gonna happen. We're always gonna be on the same team together.
Or you know what would work if we were on the same team together and we were just terrible, so that like nobody really
All right,
cared if
that's
we sat
also
there and
never
circled
gonna
jerked
happen.
around.
It's
Oh, all
also
right,
never gonna happen.
all right, big Dick Doug over here. Big
I
Dick Doug.
can guarantee that.
So Edmonton, the last time we saw them, which was I think after week 1, we did a podcast. Edmonton was I believe 0-3 or 1-2. They did not start off well, and they immediately went on a 6-game winning streak following that. As Fat Squirrel and Dildozer especially really started to find their groove, and the two of them have never looked back. They're now currently holding second. Washington does have 1 game in hand on them and is only 1 point behind them. Definitely something to watch out for, but second and third seed do play each other in the playoffs, so there isn't too much of an advantage to being the higher seed. As I think the only advantage we have right now is that we allow first seeded teams, President's Trophy teams, to pick what time slot they play at in the playoffs, either the earlier or the later games each day. So I believe that's the only advantage we have right now or seeding based advantage anyway. And I guess you could say red and blue side, but some people prefer to be blue side, some people prefer red. I don't know. Do you have a preference on that? Playing red or blue? Do some people believe they play better on one or the other, so I wasn't sure if you were one of them.
That's BS. I don't know. I believe whatever color Boston is, that color's gonna win.
Well, we're not red or blue, but I like the confidence of the right dick. I like it.
We are gold. Gold is the color of winning.
Dalfan is not happy with me that I did not talk about his assist record, as he is chasing it right now. He's 6 away from tying Crab with 3 games to go, so maybe you'll be able to score a few Genos for him, dude. Or maybe BG will be able to nip a few Genos for him.
Yeah, with my 130 ping. Hold on there, buddy. I mean, I nipped one tonight, so really, I'm probably gonna get a Hattie next couple games.
Oh, you're handing out autographs?
Yep, I'll be signing people's personal DDs after the podcast.
Oh, they're personal DDs?
Mm-hmm. Do you want one? Do you want one right now?
I would like to know what a personal DD is.
If you have to ask, I can't sign it.
Here, give me your 1 minute elevator speech trying to sell me a DD.
All right, show me your DD. That's because you don't have one. If you buy one from me, you'll have one, and then you can show me it. Because right now you don't have one, but you can buy one from me for a cheap, easy price of $8.99.
What does it do?
What is it? It does everything. What doesn't it do is the better question. What doesn't it do? And in what it doesn't do, you can count on no fingers because it doesn't. It does everything. It does literally everything.
Okay.
Would you like a personalized DD for the price of $8.99?
No.
Wow. All right.
It doesn't seem worth. You did a really terrible job marketing that. Like, you would be an awful businessman.
That's why I'm not going into business.
What are you going into?
Hockey, Canadian Army, or welding.
You should try to get a degree in disappointment because you'd be great at that.
Disappointment? I would dial, but you've already got that locked up. So, anyways.
Good joke, dude.
Great fucking memes here in the dial pile.
We'll get back.
We'll keep this show rolling.
We'll get back to Edmonton. I feel bad. We're stealing time away from them. So
I don't feel bad.
Feel a little. Well, I feel bad. I feel bad. I do. A little bit. Maybe not a lot, but a little bit. So yeah, Edmonton, as we were talking about there, bit of a rough stretch very early on, but they went on a great streak afterwards, winning 6 games in a row to sort of cement themselves in a playoff spot, and they've been sitting there at that second to third position ever since. And they've been fantastic. Big key part of the reason why they've been so good is actually their 3rd round pick Dildozer, who I know there was some contention there as to picking Dildozer or picking Crab, and they went with picking Cap instead of picking Dildozer, one of the two. And Crab decided to go with Dildozer because he believed that Dildo was the better raw goal scoring talent, and that was a position of need in the draft. And I think I brought that up in the post draft podcast when we were discussing the draft. I believe I spoke to that, and it's worked out really well. It's a gamble he took, and it's been excellent for him, as Dildo is 2nd in the league in points right now and 2nd in the league in goals, and he's been doing an immense amount of work for that team. 32 goals in the season is nothing to scoff at, and he's picking up pretty much right where he left off last season in the playoffs, as he was a big contributor to Philadelphia's win last season over Dallas. So, but I also think we have to mention how absolutely insane Fat Squirrel has been this season, because it has been just unreal. He's having, in my opinion, what is the best regular season as a goalie I have ever seen in the OHL.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You've seen like...
I have been through several seasons. I've seen players like Briz, like Ticklebox, like Dalfan, PK, I've seen Sammy, all at their peaks, and I've never seen anybody do it as well over the course of a season as we're seeing Fat Squirrel do it right now.
Damn.
And he has been absolutely insane. And I'll start to break that down in a second, but I want to call you out here, Dick. Is during the draft show, you made a bet with Matt, and you said that Fat Squirrel would not even be a top 3 goalie this season in the LHL, and you said that his 7 games at G last season would not translate into a good season in the LHL this time around. So I'm going to give you a chance here to defend yourself and come up with an excuse.
Alright, so back at the draft, naive Dick Doug said, he said that Fat School would not translate into a starting goaltender. He would not be a top 3, excuse me. But naive Dick Doug was right. This 72 save percentage, pff, give me a break. Come on, seriously, 72? Like, honestly, where's like the 90? Come on, kiddo, come on, step up. I mean, best performance, maybe the most consistent over the entire season so far. I mean, we've seen, like, PK and Dolphin. I mean, Dolphin's got the record at, like, what is it, 72.6, or is it 73? So, but Fat Squirrel's been able to do it consistently. Like, there have been no games where it's like, well, fuck, he should have had that one, or this game we lost because of him. He's always, at least I know, going into a game when you're facing Edmonton, it's like, all right, their offense is good, their defense, you can break through it, but the goaltending is right there. So, I am impressed. I'll give it that, but... I didn't think the 7 games would translate, but he's blown, I think, most expectations out of the water. Now we just have to keep it up for his career.
I think that it was fair to be, maybe not doubtful
Critical?
is the right word, but critical might be the right word, of his performance, given that we hadn't seen him do it for long enough, and we hadn't seen him do it without Zam and Taze in front of him. So it was like, okay, how will it be on a different team? And the situation he's been in, I'm just going to paint this image here for you. Edmonton is the 2nd worst team in the league in shots against. They allow roughly 9.7 shots against per game, which is like really bad. Like, that's really not good.
It's awful.
For frame
bad.
of reference here, right? If we go over to Florida, if I can pull this over here, Florida only gives up 0.2 more shots against per game than Edmonton does, and Florida is a 5-win team, and Edmonton is an 11-win team. So Florida is allowed 217 shots, Edmonton is allowed 213, and they've played the same number of games. One of those teams is 2nd in the league, the other one can't even get out of 6th place before the end of the season. So just let that sink in for a second, how insane that is. So this is, and I don't mean to say that the Edmonton defense is poor, because I don't know that's really the right reason for this. But for whatever reason, Edmonton is allowing an obscene amount of shots every game, considerably more than they're getting. They're being outshot on average almost 10-8 every game. They're being outshot on average almost 2 shots every game, which is not good. That's a big difference in a league where you get between 7 and 8 shots a game. If you're getting outshot by 2 every time, that's really not good. Yet somehow, through all of that, through playing behind one of again worst or bad defense is probably not fair to say, because they are a talented group and they're clearly doing something right. As especially their goals against average is pretty good, but it's just absolutely incredible the amount of work that they're putting on Fat Squirrel's shoulders and the amount that they're asking of him every single game, and for him to turn up and put out this level of performance over 22 games is absolutely insane. Is just insane. And I don't think he's gotten anywhere near enough credit up to this point in the season for how well he's done. Like, I legitimately think that he should be a candidate for MVP, without a doubt in my mind.
Like MVP of the league, not just
Oh yeah,
Foley.
yeah.
Damn.
I firmly believe that, because without him on that team is really not a whole lot better than Florida statistically.
Is he the
outside of goal scoring, obviously? I really do. I think he is the carry price of this league. I really do believe that.
All right, Fat Squirrel, try to keep your head on level.
He is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And I think he deserves all the praise in the world for what he's been able to do with the amount of pressure that he faces. And with 3 games to go, or I think it was with 4 games to go left in the season, he broke the record for most saves per game in a season.
Damn.
Like, he can't.
What is the record now?
It was 5.86, I think, from PK or from K-Bomb, which is a lot. That's a lot of saves to be making every game. The next closest was like 5.4, I think. And Fat Squirrel right now is on a pace of like 6 point something. Actually, sorry, he's on a pace of 7. 7 saves a game.
That's pretty fun.
7. The next closest is 5.8, and he's at 7 saves per game right now. 7. I don't even have words to describe how absolutely insane that is. And I was talking to Fat Squirrel about this a couple days ago, and I was trying to understand what it is about this team that allows so many shots on net, and why they're able to get away with this so much, and why they're able to still win games. They're a 500 team right now, so certainly take that into account, but that's still good enough for second in the league at the moment, and that's pretty insane given how much pressure they're letting up every single game. I don't get it. I was trying to figure it out, and I've watched through replays, and I don't understand. I can't figure it out. I don't understand why it's happening. All I know is that Fat Squirrel is a god, and he is honestly, I mean, in combination with Dildo, the two of them really are carrying that team immensely. And I also want to give a shout out to Crab, not only for his play on the ice, because he's having one of his better seasons. Definitely been a good season for him. He's really found the scoring touch this season, which is something he's lacked a bit as a player in the past. He's always been an excellent playmaker. That's been pretty well established that he's arguably the best playmaker that the league has ever seen. But he's never been necessarily a great goal scorer in his own right, and he's done an excellent job of providing that supplementary scoring to Dildo this season. But I think massive props to Crab for helping to develop Dildo and develop Fat Squirrel. I know Fat Squirrel gives a lot of credit to Crab for practicing with him a ton at the start of this season and really helping him refine the mistakes in his game. So you got to give him all the credit in the world. In addition with Fat Squirrel and Bulldozer, and I'm really looking forward to see how they do in the playoffs. All right, so that's my rant.
This just turned to the fucking Edmonton circle jerk. Holy cow!
They deserve it. I really do believe that those players have deserved it. So, but anyway, that's my rant. I'm done. Is there anything to say about Edmonton before we?
I don't want to say about Edmonton, but what is the record for the most shots per, most shots for, and the lower shots against? Like, what's the record for those two numbers?
the most shots for, and I'm gonna have to pull it up. Give me a sec.
Yeah.
You want like the best
Yeah, the
defensive and
best.
the best offensive numbers?
Mm-hmm.
My
Yes.
guess would be you're gonna go back to San Jose season 6 for that. I know our Dallas team season 7 and season 8 were pretty good as well. So shots per game, the highest you ever had is 10.24, and that was San Jose season 6, and then
Ooh.
second is 9.65, which is Dallas season 8, and 9.4 is third, which is Philly season 9. And then shots against one right now is Toronto season 6 with 6.64. Philadelphia is in second, season 8 with 6.83, and Dallas season 7 is in third with 7.05.
So the lowest shots against was 6.8, yeah?
6.64.
6.64. So currently, the Boston Bruins are set to break that record.
Thank you, Para, by the way, for sending that record there as I was reading it off. I'll give him credit for that. So, but anyway, are we? I haven't actually
We have
been paying
our
attention
shots.
to it, so
Our shots against is 6.32. Our
Not
shots
bad.
for are 9.82. So we're gonna have to step it up these last 2 games if we want to beat both records.
well, with you off the ice, it'll be a lot easier.
Oh Jesus! All right.
Damn.
I'm trying to help the circle jerk again with being
Damn.
shown.
I thought we were circle
Daniel.
jerking Edmonton at this point, right?
That is true.
Gabe, Ottawa does hold records, but they hold 4v4 records. What we're looking at right now is 5v5 records. But Ottawa does hold a number of individual season records for 4v4, I believe. I don't know. You have to go back and check that. I've already closed the tab and everything, so I wanna keep it moving though. We'll slide over to Florida. You got nothing else for Edmonton, right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Man, I'm so happy you're good because that just makes my night, you know?
I'm so goddamn good. Are you good, man?
Alright. I was better until you got here, but it is what it is.
Damn, I've been here all night. You've been shit all night, have you?
Yeah, honestly. But it was fun beating you in the All-Star game.
Yo, do you fucking see my shit alcohol?
Get
Holy
wrecked,
cow, that was
son.
good.
Get wrecked, son.
I don't know. I
You
scored on
see
K-Bomb,
that?
so
You see
that's all
that
matters.
6-1 the first game and 5-3 the second?
We threw. It's okay.
See that 5-4 win in the.
We threw. I threw.
I just remember
It's probably
that.
simple.
Remember that I was the one who was in net on the game-winning save there in the All-Star game in the shootout. Just remember that. Stoned
Just
meat
call me
cell.
simple.
Stoned
I mean,
meat cell.
it's not hard to stone meat cell. Let's be honest.
All right. Give him some credit, dude. His shots were better than yours.
No, they weren't. He's also a normal ping.
Oh, I love you, dude. All right.
I don't love you. Love's kind of a strong word.
So Travel is saying Fat Squirrel makes 47 more saves over the season than the league average, which is, again, that's nutty. Absolutely insane. Yeah, here's another one from him earlier in the chat that I see now. Average save percentage in the league is 61.8, and Fat Squirrel is at 72.3. Like, he's having an absolutely monstrous season. I have always said that I don't believe goalies can be relied on to carry a team, and I think in 99% of situations that's true, at least for the course of a regular season. I think you can carry a playoff series as a goalie, but not throughout the regular season. But he is trying his damn hardest to prove me wrong, so props to him, man. Alright, so we'll get back on track with Florida. So Florida has seen a number of roster moves since we last saw them. I won't go through all of them now, but clearly some of them did end up panning out as the team has gone 5-5 in their last 10 games, which we pointed out, which is a big deal given where that team was at 0-12. And I think there were plenty of people out there who legitimately believed that they may not see a win this season with how badly they were losing some of those
Weren't
games.
you one of them?
Oh, I believed it was possible. I mean, at the start of the season, I think their first 3 games they got. After, I think it was 6 games, they were averaging 6 goals against a game after 6 games. Averaging 6 goals against a game. Which means they sometimes gave up more. Like, It's absolutely insane where they were at the start of the season in comparison to where they are now. And a big part of the reason why they've been more successful actually has not been the people you would expect it to be. Matt and Evcobb finally coming back and playing more, but neither one of them have really been that impactful. The two of them in total have 16 points combined through 15 games, which, especially for Matt, having only 13 points in 10 games is not at all what we expect of him. I mean, we expect him to have at least twice that easily. I mean, Matt throughout his 5v5 career, I think averages 3 points a game, and he's at 1.3 right now, which really, and minus 22, which really tells you, where he's at right now, and where that team is at, or where that team has been at for the majority of the season. I mean, Matt is a player who wins almost every game he takes part in, almost every game. And this is the first time that we've really seen that change. Even on Quebec last season, when he was there for Quebec, they were winning games. It was just when he wasn't there, they couldn't get anything done. Now, even when he is there, Florida has struggled. And the people that have actually carried them, especially of late, have been McJaba, who was traded there from Toronto, Doucette, who came over from Philly, and I think Marchie, who I think also came over from Philly. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, the three of them have been excellent over the last specifically 5 game span, but they've been huge contributors along with K-Bomb really starting to find his stride again, keeping them in these games and starting to make them considerably more competitive. I mean, there was a while there during the middle of the season where the NADT was statistically better than Florida in every category, and Florida's finally pulled back on some of that. So, but that's another point when we get to the NADT that I want to talk about quickly, is that the NADT actually allows fewer shots per game than Edmonton does, and that's a team that has
Jesus.
no LHL starters on it. So, but
BG.
we'll get into that. Well, BG, I wouldn't consider BG to be an LHL starter, but he's probably the
Drag.
closest thing you can get. Drag is also not a starter.
Well,
Yeah. Where's your argument now?
yeah.
That's what I thought, dude. All right. But yeah, so I wanted to give a shout out to those 3 guys who have really stepped up. Omaha as well. It was a free agent acquisition, and in the 2 games he's played, he's now a +4, and he has 2 points, point per game player, through the 19 minutes that he has. So big props to him. Exciting to see him getting some time and actually, doing something with it, doing something good with it, and contributing to those wins. So congratulations to him. But that actually, I have one more. I have one question I want to pose to you, Dick. Do you think that this team would have fared better if Evcobb was here since the beginning of the season, and if they had maintained their same lineup with Guy Lafleur, Drag, and Johnny?
What was the question? Excuse me, I was writing my as typing. What did you say?
Had Evcobb been here for the whole season, and had they
Yeah.
not made the change of trading away Guy Lafleur, Drag, and Johnny Hockey, do you think Florida would be better or worse than they are right now?
They definitely wouldn't have like 4 wins. Excuse me, 5 with the overtime one. I think they could be in contention for that 4th or 3rd spot. They wouldn't be like a top 2 team, but I also don't think they'd be a bottom team.
You think they could be a top 3 team had Evcobb shown up and actually played more, and had Guy Lafleur and Drag and Johnny still been there?
Yeah, I mean, Guy, Drag, and Johnny, they're no like all-star team together themselves, but I think they're good enough, especially if they have Evcobb in there and Matt, the occasion like 3 times he's gonna show up to the season. I think that's a good team, and I think that's a team that can contend for a playoff spot.
Gabe is saying that team would still be in last place, and I'm not totally inclined to disagree with him. I don't think they'd be in a playoff spot. Maybe not last place, but I don't think they'd be in a playoff spot right now still. I think there was intrinsic flaws in that team that would not have been fixed either way. But I was curious what your opinion really was going to be of that, and of the people
I'm
in
not
chat
talking
too.
like they're gonna be like, I'm not saying they're about to like just go blow away and like be the next Washington, but I think they can get into the playoffs.
Okay, I can see that. BMX Caleb, who I think is Tripp or Jake Allen.
Or Roman Polak.
Correct me if I'm
Or
wrong.
Josh.
Or Roman Polak, or what else was he?
Josh. I think there's a Josh
Jake,
or a
Jake
James.
Allen. I don't even
Jake
remember
Allen,
if I
Roman,
said that.
Tripp.
I don't remember.
There
He's
was
been a
one more.
million
There was
names.
one more.
He's been a million names. Anyway, he's saying that they might be able to squeak out fourth, and I could see that. I could see them squeaking out fourth. Especially
Reeves. That's what it was. Reeves 75.
Ryan Reeves. Yeah. Yep. Oh man, but you've had way too many names, dude. You gotta chill with the names.
Yeah.
I'm never
Yeah.
gonna be able to keep track of this anymore, dude. All right, shall we shift gears now over to Philly?
Sure.
Anything else you want to talk about with Florida?
No, I think we covered it.
Damn, Butt Pirate 96 says it would still be better than the shitty fucking Flyers.
Ease. So I took a Toronto won that game, right? Like what, 3-1?
Yeah, my guess is over, or if it's not over, it's about to be. So, apologies to the Flyers fans out there. You still got time, no worries. So,
Nah, you kids are done.
the chance is still there.
Anyway.
We'll switch gears to the other Flyers team that is contending
The
for a
ones that are
playoff spot
good.
right now. Whoa, hold on now. We never said they were good, man. Like, chill.
All right, mediocre then.
I'm kidding.
Like the actual Philadelphia Flyers.
I'm kidding. Philly actually this is the point I want to lead off with. Philly has the second most wins in the league right now. They have 12 wins, and nobody else has more wins than them other than Boston. So,
Woo!
and despite the fact that they have 12 wins and second most in the league, they're actually fourth seed, and they're 1 point out of being fifth seed. Despite having the second most wins in the league right now, which just goes to show you how important those regulation wins are. I mean, they've now won 6 out of their 12 wins. They've won in overtime, and that's 6 points they've lost. You give them back those 6 points, and they're right up there with Edmonton, contending for that second
Edmonton.
seed. Yeah,
They're in.
Yeah.
No, they're right on top of Edmonton.
there's almost no chance that they don't make the playoffs at that point in time if
Yeah.
they're able to close out these games in regulation. And who knows, take away those overtime loss points away from the other teams too, and who knows where that winds up. So, nevertheless, still in a Gabe is pointing out Toronto still has a game in hand, so there is that for the Toronto fans and the Toronto players. I say fans as if there's anybody that actually fans on like any of the LHL teams. But yeah, Toronto has 1 game in hand, and Toronto actually holds a tiebreaker with Philly too. So Philly's got that to worry about. However, things are looking really promising for Philly. Philly has won 6 of their last 7 games, and they've won 9 of their last 11 games. So really, really excellent run by them here in the second half of the season to even put themselves in this spot to begin with. Because, I mean, about halfway through the season, it looked like we had those top 4 teams, and that was it. It looked like there really wasn't going to be that much of a competition for the playoff spots. And now Toronto's taken a bit of a drop back. Edmonton and Washington are still floating around that 50% win rate, and Philly's come charging back. And now they, again, second best win rate in the league, second most wins in the league, but still only fourth.
Max, you're gonna be on your own for a bit.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, cool. No, I was about to throw it to you to ask for your opinion on something.
What?
I was gonna ask what you think changed for Philly that allowed them to make such a roaring comeback into a playoff spot.
Maybe mindset. Maybe the trade, they brought in some new blood in Guy and Drag. Maybe that helped a bit. Maybe some locker room issues were resolved. There's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of issues that can go into that. Do you just find go AFK?
No, I'm sitting here waiting for you to
Okay.
provide some legit analysis.
That was some analysis. You asked me what I thought had changed, and I said they brought in some new blood with the trades. There might have been some locker room issues that were resolved. And
All right. Does anyone else in the chat think this is the most half-assed analysis you've ever heard?
Oh my gosh.
I need to wait to see the chat here. While we're waiting, I want to give a shout out to Parabola, who streamed tonight, who's been doing an excellent job with his stream. If you haven't seen what he's been able to do, you really should check it out. He's got some fantastic overlays, all sorts of cool things like keys to the game and stuff like that too. It looks awesome, honestly. I'm really, really happy with what he's been able to do. So, but Dick, you can go AFK now.
Alright.
Buddy was moved to your channel.
So I brought in the
Don't
real
pull him
Dick
in here.
Dug.
Don't get him
No,
in
no,
here.
I brought in the. You're AFK, dude. Get out of here. I brought in the.
Woo!
This was not planned. I just saw you down there with the name Dick Dug, and I knew what you wanted. I knew what you wanted. So
It's cause you're
I'm gonna-
a fucking bum.
I'm I'm gonna pose the same question to you that I did to the other Dick Dug, which is what do you think changed for Philly that allowed them to make a comeback to a playoff spot?
I honestly think that there were some locker room issues, and they brought in some new blood with those trades, and I think that's really just changed the paradigm for Philadelphia, and they've done a much better job because of that.
What fantastic insight!
I think Philadelphia is
That-
like luminosity, and everyone else is liquid.
Oh my god.
Woo!
We have another Dick Dug who's here to come in the channel.
Buddy was moved to your
Hello,
channel.
third Dick Dug.
Hello.
All right, I'm back. Why the fuck are there so
Hold
many
on,
memes
no,
in
there's
here?
a third Dick Dug. Sorry, hold on. So new Dick Dug or newest Dick Dug. What do
He's
you
kind
think?
of a bum.
What do you think changed with Philly that allowed them to make this comeback to a playoff spot?
I think Gabe just, turned up, He's honestly just the best player in North America, probably
This
the world.
doesn't sound like Dick Dug.
And no, it's definitely Dick Duck. And he just turned up. Gabe's like just amazing, and he's carrying
wake up.
Philadelphia on his back right now.
All right, get this Dick Dug out of here.
Buddy was
All right,
moved to your
we
channel.
got a
Oh
new
my
we got a
God.
fourth Dick Dug. Dick Dug, you with us?
It's Parabola.
Buddy was moved
No,
out of your
you're
channel.
Dick Dug, right?
It's Dick Dug with 3 G's. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right,
to
sorry.
make sure
Dick
to
Dug,
pronounce
Gug
that.
Dick
That's the one.
Dick Dug. All right, I'm gonna pose the same question to you. We're gonna keep going down the line. What do you think changed in Philadelphia that allowed them to make this comeback to a playoff spot?
Okay, speaking honestly,
This doesn't sound like Dick Dug.
yeah, I really do think that there were the development of some players that were just starting to get some good ice time in the LHL that allowed them to play better. You had better play from Gabe, who stopped losing the puck like quite as much. Because like there was one game earlier in the season, Tor versus Philadelphia, where like no offense to Gabe, but like he was carrying it kind of haphazardly, and I just kind of jumped and took a grounder shot off of his stick, and just went past Meat Sale's stick, and like stuff like that. You don't see that happening in late season Philadelphia. That happened early on. That was why things were not going as well. They rebounded because they stopped making bad decisions with the puck.
Keeping on track with the serious responses now. We'll put the memes aside now that the real Dick Dug is back. Thank you, Dick Dug, Gug, and Delph Dug, and Gabe Dug for your input there.
Jesus
But
Christ.
no thanks
No
to the
problem.
real Dick Dug
Buddy
who
left
gave the
your
most
channel.
half-assed analysis
Oh
of
my god,
my
dude,
life.
what?
But
What?
I gotta agree. I think as a whole, team play is a bit better. I think they're taking care of the puck better, which is definitely important. I do think one thing that's been overlooked is that Meatsale is starting to find his way back into the game too. Much like K-Bomb, Meatsale had a rough start to the season and was really looking uncharacteristically off in comparison to what we're used to seeing him do. And he's actually
Buddy
made
was
a
moved
pretty
out of
nice
your
comeback
channel.
now. Damn.
No, I saw
No
the blue in
regard.
chat. I
No
saw blue in
regard.
the chat, so I was like, bye, kid.
Holy shit. Anyway, Meatsale is now back to a almost 62% save rate, which is really important. Under 3 goals against average, which is great. So starting to find their way back into it. And Philly actually, even though they're not sitting there at the top of the standings, they've actually been excellent in terms of shots against and shots forced. Very good statistical team, no matter what. I'm getting messages. I don't even know. What is it?
Delph?
No, what? Oh, I'm trying to figure this out.
Who are you getting memes from?
I don't know. Whatever. We're just gonna go back to whatever I was talking about before, which I don't even remember at this point. But
All right, Dial.
basically, me. I think I was
Whatever.
saying Mitso came back into it. He's done an excellent job. Team chemistry is getting a little bit better. I think it took him a while to learn how to play with Johnny and Guy. And now that they've sort of got it down, they're obviously looking a bit better. Shots per game and shots against per game have been excellent for them. If you look, they're allowing 2.5 shots against fewer per game than Edmonton is, who's the second seed, and they're currently fourth. They're only allowing 7.1 shots on net, which is great. That's actually a really, really good number. Average, I think we've spoken about this before in the podcast, though, average is usually closer to like 8. So anything under than like below 8 in the 7s is usually really, really good. And anything above 8 in terms of shots per game that you're taking is usually pretty good as well. And you can see they have a positive goal differential and a pretty positive shot differential too. So on the whole, nice job for them coming back into this and really making it competitive. And a big part of it though is that they still don't control their own destiny, as Toronto does have a game in hand, and we'll shift over to Toronto now on that note. And I'm gonna bring in Para and I'm gonna bring in Self-Plug for this, so we can talk to them.
Yep.
Buddy was moved to your channel.
Oh, hello.
Buddy was moved to your
Hello.
channel.
Right when I heard in the stream, we'll shift over to Toronto. Now I'm here.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
confusing for me.
That's crazy. Well, hello. My name's Self-Plug. I'm here with my friend Para.
Wow.
Self-Doug and Para-Doug.
There you go, boys.
So I think the problem with the team is that what did Doug say? Fuck. Never mind. I forgot the meme. I forgot the meme already. It's already
That's all right. It's all right. I'm here to talk to you
Tell me
about
your mind
Toronto
about the
anyway. I'm here to talk to you guys, the real you guys, and not these fake dick dugs going around. I wanna get your insight into the Toronto locker room, because things have not been great for you guys. We were just talking about Philly and how Philly's won 6 of their last 7. Well, if you look on the flip side and you look at Toronto, you guys have lost 6 in a row. So you've also lost 6 of your last 7. So not really an excellent run for you guys. However, you do own the tiebreaker with Philadelphia, 4-1. And you do have a game in hand on them. Do you guys are you worried about the position you're in? Are you comfortable knowing that you still have a game in hand? Like what's the mindset like?
Yeah, I'm personally not worried. I don't know about the rest of the team, but I have faith. I think we can do it pretty easily, especially with the game in hand. That gives me a lot of confidence. I don't know who it's against because I don't pay attention, but I'm sure we'll beat them.
Washington, I believe.
Oh, easy wins. Easy wins.
If you had a
Clubs or
preference,
who?
if you had a preference now, I think we had you on for the first episode of the season, right? Talking about how excellent you had been in net, and I think I mentioned to you that you should, consider looking into playing net more and trying to become a solid goaltender because you really have a knack for it. Now that it's been 20 games since then, has your opinion on that changed at all? Do you still do you prefer to be a skater? Do you think your impact is better as a skater?
I mean, I haven't really.
All right, boys, you want to be back?
Oh, okay. Okay, it's not like he provided any useful input anyway. Damn you. But
I was
He's
gonna
a
say
dead
that
already.
too. So
I mean, I don't really. I still don't really have an opinion on it. It's all up to the GM who purchases me next season. Purchases me. What the fuck?
Wow.
But yeah. Nah, I think I'm more of a utility. I think I can be equally as effective in either position, whether on the ice or in net.
it's a good talent to have. There's very few players out there who can rotate in and out of the net, especially, and be able to play another position effectively. So I know you've been a player for Leafs in that aspect. But I'll pose those same questions over to you, Para. Not about you
Sure.
playing goalie, obviously, but the questions
Yeah,
about
please don't
how
ever make me play goalie. I hate it.
the questions about how you feel about Toronto's chances here, and I'll give a shout out to Dalf real quick. So you guys play Washington in
I'm
the
back.
makeup game, then you play Florida, Boston, and Edmonton. Meanwhile, Philadelphia plays Boston, Edmonton, and Washington. So you guys share actually 3 opponents. You guys just have that extra game of Florida in there as well, and you need to stay at least even with them in points over those games. How do you feel about that? Do you think you can do that?
I think we absolutely can. I don't think there's a question as to the relative skill level of our team compared to the rest of the league, I don't think we have an issue with individual talent. But we have had unfortunate attendance issues that have just caused some. I mean, we had to text not lead last game because we legitimately thought we were going to be needing his services, and
I
yeah,
think word on the street is he's getting dropped too.
I haven't
So
specifically heard. I wouldn't be surprised because I mean you see those zeros. It's because he's never played a
he's never
there's
even
there's
shown up for a game.
yeah he's not been here. Even like Jarvan hopped the net for us, and I mean 53% is better than not having someone in net to play. So it's not
Yeah,
like
considering that's his first game back in 2 full seasons too. So
Yeah, and
so,
you look at the saves he made, and they were really good. So I can't fault him there. He played well.
yeah, absolutely. And as far as what do I think is going to happen? Am I worried? No. Are we feeling the pressure? I would say at least on an individual level, I am. Um, Hopefully, we can rise to the top. It'll definitely test our mettle. The biggest things that I feel like tell the story of our season so far is the shot
The
differential.
post, the post.
The
I
post,
think the
absolutely.
post tells it a little bit better. Jesus fucking Christ, the post.
But we don't count the posts, unfortunately. Not yet, anyway. Shot differential -30 on the season. That's pretty bad considering the opportunities. If we go back and look at the replays, a lot of times we skate in with the puck and we just take a 3-angle stick shot from half boards. The face-off circle on the right side. It just goes like at least 3 sizes of the net above the net.
It's
No,
like a good 5 feet above the net.
yeah, not
Couple
no
of
no
6 feet.
chance of going in. We have a lot of times where we bring the puck into the zone with speed, but then we can't make the shots that we can't even get the puck on net sometimes. And then on the other side, I've had some defensive struggles. Communication hasn't been necessarily our strongest suit, and I'm not calling anyone out. I think that's just something that we've had issues with. Um, but we definitely can do it. You'll just have to watch and see.
Yeah,
I know we can.
especially with the advent of Leafs ping issues. That's gonna be a serious a serious shot to our team. But I still think we can do it.
you guys
Yeah.
have the talent. I mean, you have the talent across the board to be able to do it. But I'm glad you brought up Leafs there, as I was going to mention that too, because actually in your last 6 games you've only scored 11 goals. On the season, you guys are averaging 3 goals per game. Yet over your last 6 games, which you've obviously, as we said, lost all of them now. You're only scoring a little bit less than 2 goals a game during that stretch, which clearly is a big drop off from what you normally expect of yourselves. Uh, how do you guys plan on trying to come back from that? I mean, obviously, a large portion of that is going to fall on guys like Otto and Tall, who are the main forwards on this team. So maybe not as much pressure on your shoulders individually, but what are you guys looking to do yourselves to try to help facilitate that scoring a little bit better?
You know, just most of our goals conceded have come from like silly mistakes, like a poorly received pass on the boards, or just a bad dump. So instead of like
I'll be
focusing
right
on
back.
scoring as much, I think we're gonna focus more on cutting out the simple defensive errors that we've been making, and I think that'll lead to more goals.
I think, yeah, what Self said is right. Those defensive mistakes get to us; they kind of rattle us. It doesn't feel good whenever there's one specific time where we had the puck and it was loose, so we were gonna go ahead and chop it up the ice 3 consecutive times right to an enemy stick, and then finally that was the one where they just came in and scored an easy goal on us after we had depleted our going up resources. Not only eliminating defensive mistakes, I think one part of the game that has been missing the last few games, Leafs, his passing prowess is sometimes underrated when you consider just how good he plays the rest of his game. His connection with KS Auto, I don't think that can be understated, or I don't think that should be understated. Let me rephrase. Without Leafs playing with good ping, we've seen KS Auto's production suffer as a result from what I remember. Um, without KS Auto producing, other people stepping up, it kind of puts pressure. Players like Self, who are excellent coming out of their own zone are forced to make slightly more aggressive plays on average to try to get those goals to make up for a lack of scoring in the front end. And then that's when we tend to make those defensive mistakes, is when we're overcompensating for some issues on the front end, causes issues on the back end. It just all comes down to not meshing as well as we should as a team. We have to pull it together in these last few if we're going to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah,
Self-plug? Oh, go ahead.
I fully agree with what he said. It's our lack of production up top. You see Tall Midget having, I think, a record low season now. He's not been performing as well as he can, and it's been, I've been, taking it on myself to try to push up more and help get those goals. And you saw it, last game, I believe I got a point, and the game versus I think the last time we played Boston, I scored a nice backhander on Sully. But yeah, I don't think I've played good enough defensively either, which, is brought out even more by having to come forward. But
Right. Well, and not only that, like I said, nothing here is ever meant to be against anyone.
yeah, no. Our team chemistry is fine. We don't really have any problems.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Like, look at our points per game. Like, I'm not the kind of player that you usually rely on to score a bunch of goals a game. I shouldn't be more than self-plug, and that just comes from a result of those issues plaguing the play in general. 0.78 to 0.72.
Well,
cut
you
out
gotta
my games in
consider,
goal, and
yeah, he's
I am
over a point per game when he's not in net. Yep. So.
Oh, okay, I see. I didn't
Yeah.
see that. Okay, well then that's better then. I was like, that looks really odd. Speaking of in net,
Yeah,
it's
he's I think
important to-
just behind Tall if you take out those 5 games in net.
Okay, that's good to note. One thing I was going to mention though, you mentioned him being in net, 70.59% save. I know it's only 5 games played at goalie.
Well, it's also 7.2 saves per game.
Yeah, that's pretty exceptional for that short run that he played. So props to him for keeping us in those games.
Yeah, and I know that was
That's a
something
long
we
time
spoke
ago.
about that very first episode of the season where I spoke to Self-Plug and told you we were going to get you on. And you do have an innate ability there to play goalie, and it's something that I hope you do explore more in the future, even if it's not in the immediate future. So.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes with that.
Well, as long as there are issues with other skaters on the team, it's I think very likely that you'll continue to see time there, especially with Briz still able to show up. Then Briz, whose numbers obviously aren't quite to the same level as yours are, being almost 10% behind you, but those numbers for Briz aren't really bad. I mean, I'd say they're fairly average. It's maybe like I'd say it's about average. Maybe slightly above average. I think it's usually about like 60, 61%. So Briz typically is an above average goalie, so it's probably a little bit low for his standards. But in terms of just league average, he's doing fine right now. Good enough for you guys to be able to still win games, but obviously he's going to need to kick it up a gear for this playoff push.
Yeah,
And-
I think Briz is super talented, but I don't think he's been like, he shows up to games without practicing, and I think that's been his downfall this season. He hasn't focused as much on the game, which there's nothing wrong with that, but you expect a little bit more from Briz.
If I can cut in real quick, just really quick to kind of, I know we're running out of time on this section here, but I wanted to kind of bring a little positive light to it. We do have the highest shot efficiency in the league at 40.25. I believe the closest is Edmonton at 38.73. When we do hit the net, we're scoring goals at a higher rate than anyone else in the league. So if we can continue to keep our shots efficient, if we can work on our play defensively and in net, I think we have a real great chance at getting to the playoffs.
If
I
they could
would
take
have
the
to agree.
magnet out of the puck that knocks it into the post, that'd be great. Because that's been the biggest issue, is that gay .37 feature. My least favorite part of the game.
0.37.
Unfortunately, the post is there for all of us, so hopefully you guys find a way to avoid it a little bit more in the future. But I'd like to thank both of you for coming on and talking to us, and we'll chat up with you a little bit, or in a little bit. Pravla, I'd like to have you back on, I think at some point, to talk about Chicago. Self-plug, I don't think we'll talk about Coventry today. so we probably won't have you back on this episode. But
All right, that's
thank
fine.
you both for coming on.
Hey, you're welcome, Dial.
All right.
Have a great night, guys.
You too. You too.
Buddy left your channel. Buddy left your channel.
All right, Dick Dug, are you there? I don't think he's there. I think I'm alone again, as usual. Thanks, Dick Dug. All right, so we'll shift over again, and we'll talk about Washington. Yep, nope, he's still not there. I poked him and getting nothing. That's okay. Alright, so Washington still also have not locked in a spot yet. I believe, as we said earlier, at the very beginning of the cast, for those of you who might not be here or might not have been there, they do have one extra game in hand, which is very beneficial for them, obviously, as they're only 1 point
Hey,
behind
wake up.
Edmonton at the moment for third seed. Or for second seed, sorry. I am being poked. PK, tell me in the chat what you are looking for, because I don't want to tab out here. But
Buddy was moved to your
alright,
channel.
Dalf, you're going to be the new Dick Dug for a couple of minutes. What's up?
Can I be
What's up,
just
Dalf Dug?
Dalfan? Do I have to be Dick
You,
Dug
alright,
fan?
you can be
I
Dick.
not?
You can be Dalfan. That's fine.
Dick
You don't have
Dug
to be
does
Dick
not
Dug.
provide great content.
That's true. Anyway, alright, so getting back to this, now that I'm focused, I can pay attention. So,
Talking about
Washington,
right?
yes, talking about Washington. They were, for a while early on in the season, the best team in the league. A lot of people picked them favorites to win the cup, alongside Boston, I believe, were considered to be the two favorites. Fallen off a little bit since then. They're sitting an 11-10 record right now. They do have 4 games left to go. I believe 1 regulation win for them and a loss of any kind for Toronto and Philadelphia on Sunday will clinch them a spot. I don't really think they're in significant danger of losing a spot at this point in time, as they have a 5-point lead over Philly and a 6-point lead over Toronto, with a game in hand to play against Toronto. So that one Toronto game will be big for them, obviously, when they do play it. So, but they may have actually clinched by that point in time. So I do expect to see that Edmonton and Washington are going to maintain the second and third seeds in some fashion. So they will probably go against each other in the first round. I don't think you'll see too much shifting there. But I think we've seen, as the season has gone on, the chemistry there has fallen apart a little bit. I don't want to say a lot, because obviously they're still capable of winning games and still a very talented team. They just beat Edmonton 4-1 the other day. But it's not quite at the level they were at early on in the season, where they were just absolutely trashing teams 6-0, 5-1, 6-2. Like, they were just trouncing teams, and they've sort of come back
Alright, Gigolos, I'm back.
to reality here. That's unfortunate. They've come back to reality here, and I think part of that has also been a bit of attendance issues, as we've seen Taze has now missed 4 games, and I believe they've only won 1 of those 4. Claude has now missed 5 games. Lucci's just missed 1. Jerry's missed 1. Proper's now missed 3 games. So not a ton for each individual person, but when you add them up for their starters, they're losing out on games played, and those are going to wind up being important, especially as we move into the playoffs here. They really need their whole lineup there, or they're gonna struggle to make it out of that series against Edmonton. Edmonton is a team that has given them a rough time of it all season long. It's been one of their harder matchups that they've struggled with. So going to need to find a bit more consistency there, and both Claude and Lucic fallen off a little bit in the scoring department too. Not quite as prolific as they were early on, but that's just be a bit of a scoring slump for them, and we could see them come back to it pretty quickly, as I think they're still probably the most talented team individually across the board in the league. So definitely still a lot of potential there for them, and a lot of or I'd say a good chance of them being able to take home this cup, no matter what seed they wind up coming into the playoffs on.
Yeah, I mean, potential is right, but at the same time, early in the season they were rushing, trying to contend for that President's Trophy, and then once that kind of no longer became an option for them, they were content to entirely coast through the rest of this regular season. And I think that's what we've seen here now. For the past 2 weeks, they only have 1 win, and now that's a little bit swayed by the fact that we had Easter break, and now we have this All-Star series. So they've only played 4 games in the past 2 weeks, but over that time, they only have 1 win, and the other one was rescheduled, pushed back for various reasons. But I mean, in all reality, getting upset by Florida, not only upset but mercied by
Yeah,
Florida
6-0.
is
Yep.
very scary. And at the same time, they dropped that one game to Philadelphia and then came back with a resounding win over Edmonton just this past Tuesday. If they had not gotten that win, they would have been in seriously bad shape. They would have been sitting at 32. Nevertheless, they did get that, but that rescheduled game is really going to be a key factor moving forward. If they drop that game to Toronto, they're going to be sitting at 35 points still. Toronto will be at 32 right behind them, and they could potentially fall to that 4th seed and have to face Boston in the first round. And I don't think that's something that they want, but it might be something that they haven't even thought about because they have had this mindset that they're a winning team throughout the regular season, despite the fact they're only one game over 500.
That's a good point there by Tickle, saying that in the 6-0 win for Florida, the only starter they had there was Taze at that time, and Taze was only able to play about 7 minutes of that game as he was playing through some serious lag. So that one specific instance might not be the best example for how they can play as a team, but it does highlight the attendance issues that they're starting to run into late now in the season. And I think Claude has missed the past like 3 or 4 games in a row, including tonight's All-Star games, which he was not present for. So not really sure what's up there on his end.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's just going to depend on how they play the rest of these 4 remaining games, but it's something that could be, like you said, I don't think they're going to fall out of the playoffs. I don't think that's a realistic scenario as they're 6 games above that, 6 points above that, with only 4 games remaining. But in all reality, they could fall to the 4th seed if they lose to Toronto whenever that rescheduled game is played. I don't think it's been set a date yet, but, if they go and lose on Sunday to Boston, and then they lose against Toronto, you really have no idea how the points are going to lay, and they could find themselves facing the President's Trophy winners in the first round of the playoffs, and I think that's something that they really want to avoid.
Actually, I have spoken to them before, and they aren't against playing us in the playoffs. They actually, I believe the team they want to avoid, last time I spoke to them, was Edmonton. That's the team they're looking to not play of any of the other teams. So
That's interesting. I mean, I know they have squared up to us quite well. There was the one 5-1, I think it was, victory for them. And
Yep,
then Reese
5-1.
of late, we had a 5-3 victory against them where they rallied back to score 2 but couldn't quite overcome our deficit. But we haven't swept them by any means. So I mean, that's interesting though, nonetheless. And they did
yeah,
just beat Edmonton again, so I'm not sure what their record is against them.
I believe I'd have to go back and double check it now because I don't have it written down here. But I believe that Edmonton has a season series between them. Or actually, no, it's 2-2 right now. It's 2-2 right now, and the winner of that game between Edmonton and Washington, I believe, will take it. I'm sorry, no, it isn't. It's 3-1. Edmonton owns it 3-1. So no matter what happens in that third game, Edmonton owns the tiebreaker, and they'll have won the majority of the games in the series. So.
But yeah, I mean, it's just going to depend on how well they can come together as a team once they go into the postseason. I do think that they are kind of in this mentality where they're content to coast. And if you don't go into the postseason, if you drive backwards into the postseason, losing against teams like Florida, despite the fact, like, you can say obviously they had their backups there, but why do they have their backups there? Because their starters aren't taking it seriously, because their starters are content to show up for the playoffs, but not for the final games of the regular season, which don't mean anything.
We'll see. I think Toronto is potentially in a similar scenario where they kind of got to get things together and start turning it around, because if they make the playoffs at this point and they make it coming off of a 6-game losing streak and they really aren't able to put a whole lot more together and still find a spot, then we could see something similar there too, where they're just not really prepared for the level of intensity that comes from the LHL playoff games. And those best of 7 series are tough. They are tough. They are mentally taxing, and they're hard. You got to play back-to-back games too every night. So especially if you're taking it to 7 games, you're going to play 3 games in one night, and that can be a very daunting task for a lot of people. So certainly not a position that they want to be in. Although if they can string together some wins here at the end of the season and go on a bit of a run here going into the postseason, I think they'll be in an okay spot still.
Yeah, I would agree with assuming that they can just not skid and not lose all four of their games. If they go 2-2, they'll be in a fine shape because of that 5 point lead that they have over the other teams. But if they continue the way that they've gone, and that excludes the Edmonton game where they did play very well, but at the same time, I don't think Edmonton was playing that well last Tuesday. I think they had a very bad day, and they previously spoken about once they lose one game, they don't like playing multiple games in one day. So, and that's what they had to do that day, and they lost both of them. And being on the ice against them in the game earlier, because we played them, and then they had to play Washington as well. They lost both of the games. They didn't seem to have that much energy as to how much they normally did. They weren't coming at us over and over again. I don't know how many shots they had really in that game. Um, so that Washington win, subjectively for me, isn't as valuable, isn't as powerful over Edmonton. I don't think it's that impressive. I think that it doesn't change anything about how they're playing. Um, and if they're not careful, I know I've said this a few times, but they might be surprised with that last berth to the playoffs in the fourth spot. But if they don't care about who they have to face, um, and in all reality, if their mentality is they want to win it all, obviously that's everyone's mentality. But for them, they don't care about whether they have to face the best team in the second round or the first team. They're going to have to play the best team regardless. So if they play them early, play them late, it doesn't really matter to them.
That's fair. That's fair. Dick Doug, thoughts on Washington?
I haven't noticed it to quite an extent that Dolphin had, but I do have to agree with the fact that they do seem like they're coasting. Whether it be them not taking it seriously or them just not being able to muster the wins, there is a problem there, and it's if you lose a couple games going into the playoffs and then lose the first two, so now you're like if you lose like it's like if you lose like the last two games of the regular season and then lose the first two games of the series, not only are you down 2-0, which sucks to be down at that, but you've also lost 4 games in a row, and maybe like there have been some issues personality wise on that team, or this one Shama with proper cheese and some other players and just going on, and that might make some of them tilt and get I wouldn't say mad or angry at the players, but it might not put them in the best position mentally. So there is that, but you do have to take games seriously. Like there's really no point in the regular season that I feel you can just be like, oh, these games don't matter. It's like you have to try every game if you want to compete, especially if you want to have the best mentality to go into the playoffs, and and you get that mentality from playing your hardest in the regular season.
Well, no matter what, the talent that they do have to showcase is scary. Like it's not a lineup that I would be happy to face at any juncture of the playoffs. So obviously it'd be nice to not have to play them at all. But then again, I feel the same way about Edmonton too. Those two teams right now, the two teams that I think have given us the most trouble. So I think there's certainly potential there for them to be dangerous if they can start to sort of string things back together here. And I think they're certainly capable of that. And T-Lars is an experienced GM, so he does understand these situations and how he needs to control his team to sort of manipulate them and get them heading the right way, facing the right direction, and the right mindset for what's coming around the corner in the playoffs. And I do think he'll have them ready. Whether or not that means they'll be able to overcome Edmonton or Boston, whoever they wind up playing in the first round, obviously that remains to be seen. But I do think they'll be in a better position come playoff time than they are right now in this instant. So
Yeah.
that's about all I got on Washington. So we'll move it along and talk about the NADT for a bit.
Sure.
Did not mean to do that. Clicked on the wrong sheet here, so pull up season 10 again. Come back over. I thought I edited this so we could see the NADT. Yeah, I did. But we're not going to see... Alright, yeah, we're just going to do this. That way we can see Ski's name too. Alright, so here we go. We got everybody showing up on there. So the NADT, 5 wins on the season. Whoop, whoop. They got as many wins as Florida does right now. I believe 3 of them were forfeit wins, but I'll take it. They got 5 wins, and it's something important that I want to point out, which again we sort of spoke about this with Edmonton, is that the NIDT is only allowing 8.2 shots against per game, which is a little bit below average for a typical LHL team, but is better than Florida, Toronto, and Edmonton. So certainly something to consider. Obviously, you can see the goaltending hasn't been quite as good as what you might expect from an LHL level, but that'll come with time. So not overly concerned with that. But the real big drawback that has been hampering the NADT so far this season is that offensively it's been much harder for them to get going, which is something that I find, at least personally, to be strange, because it seems like the team has developed very well defensively first, out from there. Whereas normally, most of the players, especially individually, tend to develop better offensively first and then develop good defensive skills. And it's rare to see a team sort of and a group of players that are succeeding in the opposite direction. Delph, you can probably expand upon that better than I can.
Yeah, I mean, I stress defense as something that's been very important, and I hope that has been kind of a trait of most of my teams. Other than Season 8 Dallas, most of them were defensive first, gritty teams that didn't necessarily didn't necessarily generate like a record number of shots, but did suppress a lot of shots, and that's one of the things that we've really emphasized with the NADT. And our defense has been really, really strong, and I think you'd see that goal number be better potentially than what it is right now if you had I don't want to say like a non-rookie goaltenders in net. It's everything about it, it perpetuates itself. So you have, I've been really impressed with our defensemen, and I've really emphasized getting our forwards low in the zone, back checking hard, and getting low on the breakouts to make sure that they can clean up mistakes when you have turnovers. So that's what has really built that number to be lower than other teams like Florida and Toronto, who both have higher shot against rates than we do. And I'm really proud of that. But I think it's very distinct things that we're struggling. It's almost as if we're faking it. And all of our teams are going out there and just barely faking, barely, like, we know exactly what we need to do, but they're kind of scared about actually doing it. And so that as we continue to play games, they'll continue to fake it until they make it theoretically. And the it's really funny because we're fine. We give up, one shot. We're fine. We give up a second shot, and then that rebound, we start to get lost. We start get chasing in the zone, and we stop moving our feet. And it's so frustrating to watch because you stop skating and you can't get to those loose pucks. We're terrible at retrieving loose pucks, but actual transition defense, we're tremendously good at. Our forwards know exactly how to defend, know how to effectively forecheck, turn around, not get beaten clean, back check strong, and then let the defenseman pinch up. And we've done a very good job of that. And you can see that transition with our players who then get signed. Omaha just joined Florida and had a 2-point game in his first LHL game ever. And he is showing tremendous skill, as well as BG playing very well for defense now for Boston. Played 2 games, 2 wins, him starting on defense. And you see Austin put up 50 minutes for Boston. Trev has looked tremendous, really starting to buy into the system and buy into how you defend by not getting beat clean, not going one-on-one with a guy, but skating with him. And I've been really impressed with a lot of our guys. Spider Geek killing it in the JSL playoffs, even though his team is on the verge of being eliminated. I think he played extremely well. You see Stamkos carrying, I won't say carrying, but being a tremendously positive factor in his JSL playoffs. Big Bertha playing well in his JSL playoffs. Icy, all of them really had great nights if you watched the JSL and the RSL the other night. And I'm Not Stamkos, who was a backup on the RSL, actually finished as the leading point scorer for the Hershey Bears. So I'm really proud of the guys and how they've been able to have success at the LHL level, but also we see them carry down that success in personal accolades for them. And BG, member of the NAGT, got the co-RSL scoring title last Wednesday. So I'm really happy with how everything's with the development that's come along so far this season.
So do you believe this was a success then? Is this something that you'd look for in the future to do again, holding an NADT like this and getting a team on your own and coaching it like this? Like, do you think you've done what you set out to do?
I don't know. I was thinking about it the other day because it was always that statement of the goal is to prepare the LHL to expand to 8 teams, and now we're here. And is that a possible reality? And I think when you look down our roster, there's a lot of guys who can move in to an LHL expansion era starting roster spot. And then there's some guys who probably need a little bit more time because that's how development happens, and sometimes it takes time. We had I want to say four JSLers on our roster, so it's kind of tough to expect them to then step up into an LHL starting role. But that was the goal, was to buy in to 10 or 11, junior players and develop them to make it possible for the LHL to expand, for the RSL to stay at 8 teams, and so that was the purpose. Now, would you say the NADT was a success in terms of developing players, um, keeping games close prior to that Boston game? Thanks, Dial, for scoring 7 goals against these kids. Prior to the Boston games, we had had a series of 1 or 2 goal games, all very close. I think we had a winning streak at one point, something like that. Or it was like 2-1.
2 game winning streak, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of close games, and we had been winning we'd been losing games that we should have won. Ironically, crazy that we're like relenting, like, oh, we should have had that one because we played so well, and we didn't win it despite that. Um, so we, I'm really happy. I think the NADT set out to develop players, and that's exactly what they've done. How much so to make it possible to expand the league, we'll find out.
And a lot of that's going to be dependent on returning players too. That's another key factor that we look at every single time we come to this during the off season. And I don't really want to start these discussions now. I'll entertain it a little bit here. But there's a number of players that, again, as usual, veteran players that are looking at not coming back. We got names like PK, Zam, defenseman Jerry. I know Tidge, who's been on the border there of being a starter, also planning on not coming back. So we've got names like that. Who knows if we'll see Matt back again? And those are big holes to fill up. So that said, I do want to try everything we can to get another recruitment wave in during this off season. So it's not exactly the best time for it. Usually the best time is the off season of the NHL. But if we can get it when 20 of the teams or so are not in the playoffs anymore, which actually by the time we do the recruitment it'll be sometime in May. So yeah, we'll see what that should be about the semifinals. I think final 4, final 8 teams by then. We'll see, but hopefully we actually get a number of people to sort of fill in and we can spread and branch back out. But there is always the possibility too of doing the 7 teams in the LHL like we talked about doing for this season, and having the NADT operate as that 8th team to round out the schedule there. So that's certainly something we could talk about doing, and we'll see where that goes. Those discussions will be had during the off season once we sort of start to get through these playoffs more.
Yeah, hopefully we can retain as many players as possible. Uh, I always hate how it comes around and it becomes kind of popular to resign. This happened in like there's waves that it happens in. It happened in like season 1. It was popular to not sign up again, and there's always a really large majority of people that will want to keep the league going. And because of that, I think it'll be a long time before LHL or for hockey competitive play ever like sizzles out. But there's always just like this minority of people that like think that it's cool it's like new. I don't know. Right now it's with like Jay Lalu and that group of that they even have their own team speak, and they think it's cool to not sign up, and it's cool to move away from that. But the bottom line is you put some 20 hours into the game every week. I don't know if it's that much, but you play a lot of this game, and you think you're just kind of gonna walk away from it, and that's why we still see those guys in pubs every.
I mean, I think it's hard to put down the game entirely, right? Like we've all been there. We've all said, I don't want to play this game anymore, and it's hard. I mean, for as terrible as the game is, for whatever reason, we all love it, and it is what it is. I can't really explain why, but we keep coming back to it, and I do think in terms of Tej and defenseman Jerry, I know the reasons why they're considering not coming back is purely because of the fact that it's so late at night that they have to play. That it's just hard to keep that up for several months at a time, staying up till like 2 or even 3 in the morning in some cases to take part in all of this stuff, and then still live normal lives on regular hours over in Europe. So I can understand from their perspective why it would be hard to do something like that. And I know we've got PK too, who's leaving because he's got work and he can't make games anymore. And like I said, who knows with Matt what he's going to wind up doing. So I'm sure there's various reasons in certain subsets of those people to explain why they might not be interested in coming back, but it is something that I know DeBeasy, especially of late, has been sort of, I don't want to say harping on, but really looking into and stressing, is that we should try to find better ways of retaining players that have been here for a while, because a lot of people just get burnt out by it. I mean, it's stressful, right? Like it's a lot to take in and to do, week in and week out and be a part of. And it seems like it's a small commitment, but you want to keep playing, you want to practice, you want to make sure you're maybe not at the top of your game, but still playing almost as well as you can every single time. So, there's a lot that goes into that. And I think it's certainly a discussion worth having as we come into the off season. What are the changes we could make to make it more appealing to stay? And I think one of those things you have to do is make it new and interesting and exciting and different and something else, something more than what it's been in the past. And every season we're looking to improve and try to find ways to make that experience better for everybody involved. And sometimes it's hard to do that for the older experienced players while still maintaining a good avenue for newer players to break into those roles. So
yeah, that accurately summarizes it. I think I've been really impressed with the energy that comes from the RSL and the JSL. You got a lot of players, and it's fun to kind of watch them do the same thing that we did in terms of getting all excited and having your first playoff series, having your first, I don't know, whatever it is, trade and first successful season, first playoff run. It's fun to see all of that revitalized in a new I don't know, generation, I guess you could kind of say. Seems kind of weird to say that, but then again, we've been here for 3 years, so.
that's very true. So anyway, okay, so that's about all I got on this. Dick Doug, you want to chime in on anything?
No, I think you guys are kind of beat at home. I do hope the NADT.
He says that, but now he's going to add something.
Do you not want me to add to the conversation?
Okay, go ahead.
I do hope the NADT allows us to expand the league. I think having more spots is going to be a good thing, but we also don't want to have it where those teams get blown out consistently and it's just like a fucking chore to show up every time for those teams. I do hope we do continue to have the NADT team. It's a nice addition. It was a fresh idea, and I think the whole idea itself has panned out really nicely. So I do hope we do continue it past this season, and I hope Dolphin continues to manage it because he's done a hell of a job.
Wow.
There you go. There you go. Compliments from Dick
I don't
Doug.
believe it. I don't.
Yeah.
I
drink?
always give you compliments. Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm pinching myself right now.
Are you serious? I always give you
Is this one of those other Dick Dougs that was in here earlier?
Fake Dick Doug. Dick Doug would never say that.
Alright.
If I got $1 for every time I complimented you two assholes and I didn't get anything back,
okay.
I would own everyone
goodness.
Here.
This guy. I want everybody who's
sometimes.
I want everybody who's listening to this to understand that what Dick Doug is saying is not true. He never compliments us.
No, I always give you guys compliments. Good job, nice play. You guys are good, hell of a play, good job.
It's when I
Christ,
dump the
goddamn.
puck. When I dump the puck accidentally, I'll be like, "Dang, I accidentally dumped the puck," and Dick Dug will say, "Nice pass, nice play."
I'm trying to keep the mood positive. You guys are just like, no, that was bad. We're awful. Kill ourselves. And it's like, come on, buddy.
All right, let's move on to predictions so we can finish up the LHL stuff. Start talking about RSL and JSL for a bit. So give me 1 sec, and I will pull that up.
You guys don't appreciate me enough here.
I
That's
still
what the
can't
problem
believe you
is.
complimented.
Oh, I compliment you all the time, Dal.
He said I
give
did
me
a good. I can't believe this. Phew. I never thought I'd get a compliment again after I traded you, season 9.
I don't know why this is showing TeamSpeak now. This is. Oh
Is
my
it gonna show
goodness.
TeamSpeak here in a minute?
Yeah, on the stream.
Are we about to like break the fourth wall here? Like, oh my god! Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. You can't see us.
Hold on, I'm trying to set this up because the predictions thing is apparently broken since the last time we used this. So I gotta redefine the region that we're looking at here. So bear with me a second.
Oh, I mean, we can. Go ahead,
Hey,
maybe.
there we go.
Oh,
And I can shrink this and move it.
yeah. I mean, I can start spitballing the discussion, and then once you set that up and everything, we can.
All right, I got it
So-
on there.
Oh,
So none of us can do
We
the
got it.
Boston. Who's
We
gonna
got it.
predict the Boston games?
Apparently nobody. I'll put Dalf in there. We'll get the chat to predict the Boston games. How about that?
All right, that sounds good.
they're gonna vote against us every time.
I'm alright with that. I don't really have a problem with it. So
Where,
right, so,
where are
well-
the NADT games?
we don't do
Those
predictions
games
for
don't
the
matter.
DT games, Dalf.
Unbelievable.
I'm sorry. This is our first predictions of this season, isn't it?
Woo!
That's right, because we skipped it at the beginning of the season. Didn't do any predictions.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
Wow. All right. So this is first predictions of the season for the last week of the regular season. So here we are. Also, DeBeezy, if you are listening, and Parabola, both of you, I do want to get you on for the RSL JSL stuff, which we'll do right after this, probably about like 15 minutes.
After
or so,
2
so
hours.
10-15 minutes. So be ready for that. Anyway, so Edmonton and Philadelphia is the first game on Sunday. So all 4 of these games have been decided by one goal. It was 2-1, 3-2, 3-2, and 3-2. Those have been the scores for those 4 games. Philly winning both of their games in overtime, and Edmonton winning both of their games in regulation. So Edmonton does own the tiebreaker. Not that I believe we will need it, but there is still potential for that. Sorry. Dick Dug, what is your prediction
What's
for
up,
this
fam
game?
jam? Okay, so this is gonna be a closer game than people are gonna expect, but the score isn't gonna relate that. It's gonna be an Edmonton win, but I think it's gonna be like 2-1.
Okay. To answer your question, Guy, yes, there is a Toronto versus Washington game that needs to be made up. Because there's no date for that set, I don't have it on here right now. But we can discuss that anyway amongst ourselves if we want
Hey,
to.
wake up.
So, all right, Dalfan, Edmonton versus Philly.
I think I got to go out here for Philly based on how they've been playing. They've had a really good mentality, a lot of energy. Gabe's been less cancer lately, playing a more team game, and Guy Lafleur really wants to propel his team into the playoffs. So I'm going to have to pick Philadelphia here over Edmonton based on just Edmonton coming off those 2 tough losses. You know, they're going to be wanting to come hard here, but I think they'll be surprised by Philly, and Philly will get their first regulation win over Edmonton.
I gotta go the same way as Dick Dug on this one. I think we saw the last time, the only other time really, that Edmonton ran into a bit of a hurdle there with losing a couple games in a row at the beginning of the season, and they came out full guns blazing after that. And I think you're going to see them really try to prove that they're a lot better than they showed on Tuesday against 2 other playoff teams. So I'm going to predict them to win this game, but it will be overtime. This will be the first overtime loss of the season for Philly. All right, we'll move on to Toronto and Florida, as we can't do Washington and Boston. I'll leave it now for the chat. Washington and Boston, guys. Let's see some responses here. Boston or Washington? Dick Doug, try to keep track of those while we go through the Toronto versus Florida stuff. So, all right, so Toronto, Florida. Toronto really needs this game. I don't think Florida has anything to play for at this point in time other than just spoiling, really, and trying to be the upset factor. As we said, Toronto has lost 6 games in a row now. Longest losing streak of the season outside of Florida's 12-game losing streak, so not exactly something to be proud of. But I do think in this game they are able to get it done against the Florida Panthers, and they'll put themselves back in a playoff position, 1 point ahead of Philadelphia, who I'm predicting will lose in overtime. Delph, we'll hand it off to you.
I mean, I guess you gotta go with Toronto just based on how badly they need the points. I don't think that they can afford to lose it, and I'm willing to hedge my bets on that. Is that they need that win definitely, with now them being questionable on their playoff position. So losing here will be really, really bad for them. So I think they're gonna win.
There we go. Dick Doug.
All right, Florida has been the GOAT team from the last season, a bit of a retard sandwich. And they're in last place right now. They shouldn't be there, but they're in last place. Matt's going to show up to this one. Evcob's going to be there. Florida's actually going to have their starting lineup for one time in the season. And Matt is going to be in mold self. I'm going to predict a 3-point note for Matt himself. And Evcob's going to get 2 points, and it's going to be a Florida win. Florida's going to beat Toronto.
You know, I don't think he's capable of agreeing with us.
No, I don't think he is.
I've never seen it the same.
You watch now.
Don't
You watch
jinx it.
though.
Don't
Now,
jinx it.
now,
Don't
next
jinx
time, right? Next time for this next one, I'm gonna start with me again, and then we're gonna go to you, and he's gonna say the same thing as us, just to be that guy. So it looks like the chat was saying Boston. I saw
It was
like,
7-5 in favor of Boston.
okay, so chat says Boston is going to win against Washington. There you have it. I do believe no matter what, who wins that game, we still own the tiebreaker. It doesn't mean anything because we have already locked up first seed, so it is what it is. Another Boston versus Philly game, so we'll turn to the chat again. Boston or Philly, guys? Let us know. Dick Doug, keep an eye out in the chat for us. That'd be great.
Yep.
Dalton, we'll start with you for this one. So we'll turn it over to Florida and Washington. So this series is actually split at 2-2 right now. Washington does control the goal differential at +5, as Washington has mercied them twice and also been mercied. Might be the first time ever that we've had a season series that has involved 3 mercy rule games, not all in favor of the same team. I don't really understand. So, but yeah, as you can see here, Washington won the first 2 games 6-0 and 6-0, so a combined score of 12-0. And then has lost the 2 games since by a combined score of 8-1. So much different story, about as drastically different as you can get, really, between those first 2 and those last 2 games. So given the position these teams are at, Delph, who do you think is going to win this game?
Well, I won't pick an upset here. I think Washington's going to be coming off a rough loss playing the Boston Bruins. So they're going to be looking to get back on the winning streak. Looking to get some vengeance against Florida, who had previously 6-0'd them. So they'll come out. Won't be a mercy, but it will be a good margin for Washington.
Yeah, I got to agree. I think it's going to be a fairly one-sided game. You're going to see Washington run away with it. At this point, I think Florida will go out there and have fun with it, but they don't have as much to lose potentially as Washington does, assuming if they don't get any points on Sunday, that will be a contentious spot for them depending on what happens with Toronto and Philly. They could risk, as you said earlier, dropping down to 4th, or there is still a chance of them not making the playoffs. So they're going to need that win. That's a game that they definitely should win, with or without all their starters. So, Dick Doug, how's it looking for the Boston versus Philly?
It's like 7-0 Boston. I didn't see one Philadelphia vote.
What about Gee? Isn't Gee in the chat? Did he not pick Philly?
No.
Damn. That's
I think Dave is it Dave the Grave self plug?
Yeah.
yes.
He said
He's
Philadelphia,
Toronto.
but then was like JK and said Boston.
Damn.
So there was not a single Philadelphia vote. So rest in peace, Philadelphia.
All right. Florida versus Washington, Dick Doug.
All right, so when you guys are like, "Oh, Dick Doug's gonna meme it up. He's gonna agree with us." I looked over and I saw Philadelphia versus Boston. And I was like, "All right." Sorry, Florida versus Boston. Excuse me, I'm still in the old train. Sorry, what the fuck? Philadelphia, Florida versus Washington. The game, that one, the second one on Tuesday. There we go. I'm having a stroke here. Sorry about that. And I was gonna agree with you guys, but then I'm like, because it's Washington versus Florida, and I think Washington is just too much firepower. But it's like Matt's gonna come up and he's gonna just shit on everything that Washington stands for, and Florida's gonna beat him.
Isn't that the same explanation that you gave last time
No,
for Sunday?
No, it's
because I
slightly
said they have
different.
their starting roster.
Okay.
So Dick Doug picking Florida to go ham here at the end of the season. Too little, too late.
I think it's definitely gonna be too little, too late. But it's like, yeah.
Dick Doug, we'll throw it back to you then again here. Toronto versus Edmonton.
All right, Toronto versus Edmonton. Both two teams, I think, that are fairly similar in stature and play style and skill level. But I think it's gonna be Edmonton. I think Edmonton's gonna take that game on the back of Dildozer and Crab
Did
in
you
the tree.
just
Throwing
flip
some
a coin
sauce.
real quick there? Were you waiting for the coin flip to?
I think I heard it in the background.
No, that was actually my. I
I think it's gonna be. Hold on, I gotta flip it again.
Hold on, I have to check the moon and the phase and. No, it's gonna be Edmonton. Edmonton's gonna win that game on the back of some sick saucing pass from Crab and Tree and Dildo, and Fat Squirrel's gonna have a shutout. I'm gonna call right now. Fat Squirrel gonna have a shutout that game.
I am also going to predict Edmonton as well. I think they're going to go into the
jeez.
playoffs hot. I think they'll start to gain some momentum again coming off that Philly game, and they'll start to get back to the game that we've seen them be able to play the majority of this season. And I believe we'll see them lock up second seed there with that win. So as I have also predicted them to win against Philly on Sunday. Dalfan?
See, this is how we get him. We make him go first, and then we agree with him. So then he has no way. Once I announce mine, he's gonna be
jeez.
like, "Oh, I change it. I want to be Toronto."
Toronto's gonna win that game. Actually, I had a premonition. I had a premonition. Toronto's gonna win that game.
So yeah, I do agree. Edmonton is gonna cut through the Swiss cheese defense of Toronto without
Damn.
having Leafs. They are going to be exposed by the lethal passing plays that Edmonton is capable of. And because of that, Toronto won't have a chance in this one. Edmonton.
Gonna be exposed.
All right, turning it to the chat again. Boston versus Toronto on the final day of the season, final game for these two teams, assuming they've played the Washington versus Toronto as well. And I suppose now's a good time. We'll do Washington versus Toronto while the chat gives us responses for Toronto and Boston. So Washington versus Toronto. I don't have the season series here for you guys, but I believe Washington is ahead in that series 3-1 at the moment. I do believe Washington is going to be able to win that game. I think they are the better team on paper. They're the team that looks like they're a bit cleaner right now in terms of their play. Obviously not coming off of a 6-game losing streak there. I do think there is upset potential in that game, so I could certainly see Toronto being able to eke out that win there, which again
What are you
might
talking
be
about?
Toronto versus Washington. It's their rescheduled game that isn't on here.
Oh, okay.
The chat has asked that we talk about it, so I'll include it here. So I do think there's a chance that Toronto is able to eke out the win there, and it could be a situation where they need to win that game or they're out. So we could see that situation arising. I do think they'll give it everything they have, but I think Washington will come out on top of that one. I'm going to say about 4-2. Dalfan, thoughts on Washington versus Toronto?
I do feel like Toronto, they both play a really run and gun offense. A lot of pinching up by the defensemen, and I could see some quick goals startle Washington and give them the loss. So I agree with you.
Dick Doug? He's got to
Washington's
agree with
gonna
us.
win
He
that
has
game.
to agree with us. Uh-huh.
Washington's gonna win that game. I don't think Washington doesn't lose that game. They're gonna win it handedly. Very nice.
Are they gonna win it? Do you think they're gonna win it?
They might just
They're
win
gonna
that game.
They might
Yep.
just win it.
Might just win
Washington's
it.
gonna win it. From Dick
Yep.
Doug, Washington will
Yep.
win it.
It's so predictable. He always picks underdogs when we pick the favorite.
How
and
is
when
Washington the underdog?
when we pick the underdog, he picks the favorite. It's so predictable.
My
Maybe
goodness.
great 'cause-
maybe
My
you guys
goodness.
are
All
bad
right.
pickers.
We
Any
can
any word
control
here
him.
on the Toronto versus Boston? People thought.
Oh.
Dick Dick's got to quickly do what I asked him to do
Toronto.
5 minutes ago.
It's 5-4. It's 5-4. It's 5-4 for Boston.
Okay, so you guys
Closer
have
one.
Boston going undefeated this week, so I hope we can actually live up to
Woo!
that. Be nice. So
That would put us above the 5v5 record for best team of all time, sitting at 54 by the San Jose Sharks in season 6. So we need 5 points of our remaining 9 to break that.
if we don't get it, I'm blaming Dick Doug.
He's gonna be on the bench though, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I'm
That's
on injury
true.
reserve, so
Alright.
I'm on injury reserve until my ping.
If we do get it, I'm gonna thank Dick Doug for his lack of contribution over the final stretch.
I've been carrying this team. I deserve a break.
That's what we're resting you for the
Car-
playoffs.
Carrying with your 0.78 point
Uh,
per game.
Yo,
to
it's the highest.
to prevent the circle
Highest
jerk,
ever.
to prevent the circle jerk from coming back, right? We gotta get back here. Florida and Edmonton. Dick Doug, we'll start with you.
Alright, Matt's not gonna be there. Ev Cobb is being slaughtered by bedbugs currently. They're in that game. And is K-Bomb still their goaltender?
For Florida,
Cobb
yes.
doesn't even start himself, right? He's not
No,
even
no.
a starting defenseman.
But and K-Bomb, he's gonna do his best. It's probably gonna be one of his best performances all season. He's gonna face roughly 11 shots. He's gonna stop 9, but they're gonna be 2-0. Edmonton wins that game.
Delph?
Edmonton wins. Continued their not quite a streak, but we'll end the season strong with 2 wins.
I'm gonna have to agree as well. I don't think that this game is going to matter as the way I have it predicted. Edmonton would already have locked up second seed by that point in time, and even if they were able to fall down to third seed, it wouldn't change who they wind up playing. They'll play the second seed anyway, or the third seed if they're second. So I don't think it's going to wind up mattering at all, but I do think Edmonton is going to take it. And we'll go back to you, Delph, for Washington. Philly.
I think this game might actually have some serious playoff implications. Philly might actually really need this one to get in, especially if things go the way that we kind of predicted it. Toronto going 1-2 down the line. Philly, this game stands to have some seriously important implications for the playoffs, and I think it's tough because it could go either way, and you could see kind of Washington playing spoiler. They're going to be in that playoff mindset, being the last game of the regular season. So I do think that Washington will win.
Here we go. Dick, you care to follow up on that?
Why don't you want to go?
I mean, okay, I will go. I think Philly is going to take this game. I think this is going to be a necessary win for them. It'll be the last game of the regular season, so I hope there is playoff implications. It should make that game far more exciting to watch. Otherwise, it would just be fairly disappointing, just kind of like a end of the season game, like whatever. So, but there may be a lot on the line there with that Toronto-Boston game and that Washington-Philly game. So, but I do think Philly is going to come out strong and they are going to take the win. And I'm going to say it's going to be a 3-2 win, which has been like something like 75% of their wins this season. Dick Doug?
Alright. This time, Delph's gonna be the fucking odd man out here, you cuck. But, Philadelphia's gonna win this game. It's gonna be, they're gonna be down 1-0 fairly quickly.
Gotta fax something real quick.
No, that's my ringtone from when I get a text. Sorry.
Yeah, I gotta make a decision here.
Anyway.
Washington.
No. Philadelphia. Philadelphia's playing the game. Philadelphia's gonna win. And they're gonna be down 1-0 early in the game, but they're gonna rally back to score 3 straight goals. and then they're gonna give up a goal within the last minute to give Washington that slight hope, but then fucking Philadelphia's just gonna close it out. Ease peas.
All right, so there we go. So there are our predictions for the playoffs,
Woo!
or for the final week of the regular season going up into the playoffs. So exciting. Woo, we're done. We're going to move on
real
to...
quick, because
Go ahead.
we just predicted the final final three plus that makeup game. So then can we figure out here who has who in the playoffs based on this?
Ooh, that's a lot of work.
So I
though.
believe the way it would work out here, assuming that I think we had Toronto losing to Washington. Yes, we said they were going to lose. Honestly, I can't even remember now. But I believe we said they were going to lose, which would mean that we have them going 1
Boston
and
wins
3
every game
this
this
week. And we have Philadelphia also going 1 and... Or we have Philadelphia going... I guess Dallas picked. No, we each picked it. We picked Philadelphia going 1 and 2. Although I predicted OT, so that would wind up with Philadelphia at 33 points and Toronto at 32 points, which would mean Philly would get the spot over Toronto, assuming everything played out like that. All Toronto would need in that situation is 1 point in overtime somewhere to steal that spot away from Philly, as they do on the tiebreaker. But that would mean that your first round would be Washington versus Edmonton. Washington is the 3rd seed, Edmonton is the 2nd, and then Philadelphia taking on Boston.
So that's what you guys picked, and then because if I picked Washington to win that last game of the season, then I would have Washington or I would have Toronto as the 4th
No,
seed.
yours is the same because you picked Philadelphia to win the game on Sunday. We picked Philadelphia to win their game on Thursday. Either way, it's 1 win for them and 2 losses, so it doesn't actually wind up impacting anything. So, but the way we have it shaped up, they would get 33 points. Toronto would get 32, assuming we didn't predict any overtime. And then you'd have Edmonton and Washington squaring off each other as 2nd and 3rd, respectively.
Will be interesting to watch, and if Boston drops any games, because Boston basically lines up against the 3 teams who aren't clinched. So I know technically Edmonton isn't clinched either, but to play Washington, Philly, and Toronto, if any of those teams come away with a win, it's going to be huge for them because we're basically looking at Philly and Toronto both going 1 and 2 potentially. Toronto maybe going 2 and 2 depending on how that makeup game plays out. But it's very tough schedules for all the teams that are trying to land a spot. So any single upset could be any 3
Should be
points.
exciting though. That should mean that there's a lot on the line, and that tends to make these games at the end of the season much more entertaining for everybody to watch. So, although it'll be heartbreaking for somebody, as one of those 4 teams is not going to make it.
It is crazy to me though that the number 2 seed is only 11 and 11. They have an 11 and 11 record.
Yeah, and Washington I think is 11 and 10, and I believe Philly is 12 and 10 right now. Those are the 3 teams. They're all floating around that same point together. So
Philly has more wins.
Yeah, Philly has more wins. Yep. Yep, ridiculous how that pans out when you can't win in regulation. So
You're very experienced with that, if I recall correctly.
yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Last season was rough, and season 6 too. We went through that as well as literally 1 point out of a playoff spot. It's not.
You're welcome.
Not fun. I hate
You're
you.
welcome.
I hate you.
You're
I hate
welcome.
you. No, I hate you.
You're welcome.
Just remember that. All right, so we'll shift gears. I'm gonna bring DeBeezy
no.
and Para in here.
I actually have to head out as it's now past 11 EST, so...
Now that we're talking about
nothing of
the
value is lost.
RSL, which we have a great commissioner here. I'm so glad that we have our commissioner here to great
Buddy was
Yeah.
moved to
input.
your channel. Buddy was moved to your
Yo,
channel.
just get Fat Squirrel no
I
star
mean,
here.
like, Dial said
Buddy
himself
was
that
moved to
Phantom
your
Menace
channel.
was the best.
Buddy
Why
was
was I
moved to your
moved?
channel.
Alright.
Left your channel.
All right. Well, apparently, Subplug does not want to be involved in this.
Oh.
Rip.
But we'll say goodnight to Dick Dog. Thanks for being
Alright,
on
I'll
with us,
see-
Dick Dog.
No problem, thanks for having me.
RSL Dick
See you
Dog?
guys. I have to go.
Oh, that sounds really, familiar. You say that almost every time there's an RSL game.
All right, kiddo. All right.
Dead.
Oh my goodness.
Just sitting here playing
Just leave.
Terraria.
I'm
Just
so
leave, Dick,
sorry. I
Doug.
thought I accidentally joined.
No. I moved you in here. I wanted to get opinions from you guys as we're starting to move on to the RSL JSL stuff. So
Okay.
it'd be good to have all you guys. in
Anyway,
here.
I'll see you guys.
Yeah.
See ya.
Buddy disconnected from your channel.
Bye, Dick.
All right,
I'll be Dick.
so-
I'll be Self Doug.
We'll start with. I want to start with the JSL, which is already in the playoffs. So we'll start there, and we'll move on to the RSL afterwards. So I'll sort of paint the picture here, and then I'll let you guys, speak to it a bit more. DBZ, if you want to, you can sort of embellish on the general outline I'm going to give here. But so the first matchup we had was Lake Erie, which was the #1 seed, taking on Quad City, and Lake Erie ended up getting swept in that series, which I think
They did.
as an external
Yeah.
party comes as quite the surprise.
Well, when
Well,
you
on the
have
outside
when you have
looking in.
forward capability like John Cena does, just, you
Uh,
just can't contain him.
Well,
What-
actually, there's interesting about this that John Cena wasn't on the team until very late in the season. I think it was a trade before the trade deadline that put him on Quad City.
And props to Renegade too, who got the game-winning goal and has had an excellent playoff so far for Quad City. Bit of an unsung hero there, I think, in that aspect. But-
I'm a bit outside of looking in on that. I think Trip here, who was playing in those games,
Yeah.
could.
I think so. Quad City brought a great game. They played very well. They made really good passes, which we weren't expecting because we didn't see very much of that from them in the regular season, and they caught us kind of off guard in the first two games, and they had a couple good bounces in the second game where they kind of caught us out of position, and they just were able to capitalize on their chances, and we ended up getting swept. So they played very well. I was very happy with how we pulled it together in the last game, though. We gave him a pretty good run for the money.
Any idea what happened to Toodaloo, Juicy, and Monty, who combined for a lot of points, something like almost 45, 46, 47 points, somewhere around there between the three of them during the regular season, and it seemed like all three of them had a lot of trouble against Quad City keeping up with what they were able to put out offensively. You have any insight as to why that might be?
So neither Toodaloo or Juicy Juice use a microphone. They can listen to what we say, but they can't talk because they don't have a mic or whatever. I never knew. But I think that might have contributed to them not being able to coordinate as well because as the level of play stepped up, them not having a microphone actually started to matter because we just didn't have the kind of communication that we needed to coordinate an offense against them.
All right,
I
makes
think
sense.
that was
Go ahead.
the biggest thing is that during the regular season, Lake Erie, I mean, like a lot of the teams in the JSL had players coming and players going. There wasn't a lot of consistency with the rosters throughout the season, and the teams that we saw now are a lot different than the teams that we saw in the beginning. And when it comes to playoffs, everyone settles in. All the players show up for the most part, and now teams are playing with their best in hand. They still have to follow the 1 period rule, but they still have their best at hand. And when it came to the real of the real, as we could say, Quad City was a lot better than everyone thought they were.
And just to kind of chip in on that, like I think LEM was actually really good about having consistent attendance. Like Toodaloo was always there, Juicy Juice was always there, Monty was always there, and Candy Frag was always there.
But in
And-
the JSL, that can kind of be an issue because there's the 1 period rule as far as performance goes. 'Cause,
Yeah,
but,
but
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, you make a good point because like the 1 period rule can almost serve as a handicap because if you have your whole roster show up, you're not having the most talented players on the team play every period, which it's kind of weird, but I understand the reason for the rule. And
Causes
sorry.
some interesting situations obviously to arise, and as we spoke about when Delph and I were casting it, we weren't really sure if that was still in place for the playoffs or not, or how that was going to work. Because I think it was last season, DBZ, that we didn't have it in place for the playoffs. Is that
season
correct?
It was no. In season 7, which was the season before last season, it was not in place. but for last season it was in place.
Okay, all right,
I believe it was.
okay. So that makes a bit more sense then. So. But on the whole, obviously, a disappointing way to exit the season there for Lake Erie. But that said, I mean, we call it an upset, right? And the difference between first and fourth seed, when you look at it on paper there, then yeah. But when you consider the fact that Quad City was 6-9 and Lake Erie was 8-7, there's only a 2-game difference between those teams. So not exactly a gigantic difference between the first and fourth seeded teams. So not exactly the same level of discrepancy that you'd usually
And
expect
these
from.
teams, they tied the season series 2-2. They both had good games and both had bad games against each other.
I think
So, I mean,
LEM
this
had
one
it
really
on
could have
goal
gone either way.
differential, yeah. But yeah, so unfortunate for them, but you got to give all the credit in the world to Quad City, who was able to come out and play excellent. And you know, ML24, John Cena, Renegades, Icy. I'm probably forgetting more people on that team, but
DM56.
shout outs to
The
them.
nosebleed.
I think Molting
he
Duck is
got
on
his
their team
first
too. Yeah, right.
Molting Duck is on that team.
I remember watching. He made some incredible mid-air defensive blocks. I know on one of the goals they scored. I think it was their first one. Dalf, was it the first one they scored or their second one? Dalf.
That might have
Rip
been
Dalf.
like
Anyway, it was a fantastic play where Molting Duck is able to swat the puck out of the air on the right side boards to prevent a breakout pass, and was able to then pass it up to his teammate, who sent it across to, I think it was Icy, who was able to score. It was a really well executed play. One of the best I've seen from any team at any level. I mean, it's a hard play to
It
make,
was a
and
great play.
it was
Yeah.
kicked off by his ability there to read that puck, and that's some veteran leadership there from Molting Duck to put his team in a position to win. So big props to them and everybody on that team, and best of luck to them moving forward into the finals.
I was happy to see one of my points I made during the playoff preview I wrote last week was that they're going to need more help from Renegade and Icy during this playoffs. And the stats aren't completely up to date. I think there's a couple points missing there. But Renegade and Icy, or Renegade had 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists in that series. John Cena had 5 points. He finally got that secondary scoring that helped that, Lake Erie had during this whole season. You saw Toodaloo and Monty combining for a good amount of points, and now finally Quad City has a duo of their own with Renegade and John Cena.
And they're going to have to keep it up too, moving into the finals, where they're going to be facing off against Texas or against St. John's. And we'll get into their matchup now here. Texas is up 2-1 right now in this series. I believe they had a 1-0 lead coming into yesterday, and then were able to split the games 1-1. So their final games will be played on Monday. But with 2 games in hand here to sort of do whatever they want with, I'd say Texas is in a pretty good position to put this one away.
They are, but St. John's has a lot of momentum riding into this next game. Big Bertha was one of their star players during the third game of the series, which was the last one played on Wednesday. They won that game easily 4-1. They let in a soft goal at the end there. He's going to be there on Monday. He plays on Mondays, and so that lineup that won 4-1 is going to be there, and I think they're going to have a lot of momentum riding into that game 4.
Buddy was moved to your channel.
ML, do you have a mic? Are you good to talk on the cast?
Oh.
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to get your opinion. I didn't realize you were down there. We just started talking about the Texas and St. John's game. But first off, congratulations on winning
Thank you.
that first series. I mean, it's got to feel great for you making it to the finals and upsetting in that fashion. Given the other 2 teams, I know you've seen them a lot. There being only 4 teams in the league right now. Which of these 2 teams would you rather play in Texas or St. John's?
I mean, St. John's by a long shot.
Why is that?
Well, Stamkos in like the last game of the season completely destroyed us. I think he had 5 points that game. It was pretty bad for us.
And I think Delphin spoke to Stamkos's promise that he's shown in both the RSL and the NADT games as well. He's really showing an ability to perform at all levels. When you say Dubisi?
No, yeah, Stamkos is definitely coming into his own. And I mean, that team also has a lot of other players that can definitely put a lot of pressure on. They have a lot of offense, and their goaltender Mako is definitely looking a lot better than we've seen in the regular season. He's making a lot of good saves. So that point I made about their goaltending being weak is becoming a less of a good point. So definitely a strong team and terrible team to face in the finals.
I think it's fair to say they're a more offensively oriented team than St. John's is, given that I believe it's Toaster and Stamkos who've combined for 32 points now this season in the regular season. 20 coming from Stamkos and 12 coming from Toaster, and I think Stamkos leads the league in points, right? Correct me if I'm
Stamkos does
wrong.
lead the league. He had 20
So
points.
definitely quite the force coming up against them there.
And Toaster did lead in defense in terms of defensemen. He had the most goals. And
does St. John's have the firepower? And I'm gonna send this question to all of you here: VZ, Dalf, ML, Selfplug, Para, Trip. Does St. John's have the firepower to keep up with Stamkos and Toaster?
I don't think so.
yes,
All right, so
I'll let
conflicting
Selfplug
opinions
say
here.
first.
So go ahead. Selfplug.
I pull a dick dog. I just don't think they're good enough. I don't think we've got Stamkos, who clearly shouldn't be in the JSL. He's putting up so many points a game. He's playing like Guy Lafleur did last season. Like, it's clear he doesn't belong. I mean, they're not a bad team. But I don't think they can keep up. I don't think they can reach the same level of point output Stamkos carries that team with.
Okay, BZ.
But rebuttal.
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
that team has some very, very good offensive players. Big Bertha definitely has a good scoring touch, as well as Spider Geek. Spider Geek is more of like an offensive defenseman. Like, comes up the point, he gets really good point shots. We saw one in I think it was JSL where he had this amazing backhander from center ice that just floated right in. No way any goalie would be saying that. That stuff isn't unusual for him. He gets that going. Doc Emmerich also does very well in games. They didn't see much of him on Wednesday, but I think come with a little break, he'll definitely get back into it. This team has a lot of scoring power. Bear himself, who played out of net in the last game on Thursday, um, does also he has some good scoring ability. I mean, he does have that attitude problem. He's a bit of a selfish player, but when he has the puck in open ice, he'll put it in the net. So this team has scoring potential. And in terms of shots during the regular season, they weren't even that far behind everyone else. They didn't have the exponential amount that Texas had, but nobody else did. So I wouldn't say that they're they don't have the firepower to match Texas, but they're not behind them at all, like too far behind.
I don't know. You look at the JSL stats, and I know they're not updated, but they're pretty close to actuality. And not a single St. John's player has more than a point per game. So, I mean, it could be a mixture of them, pushing it up, but I think it's more they just don't have as much talent. I mean, their second highest scorer is Hippo.
Something to be said about that is that Master Metroid definitely does a better job of fitting the JSL format where you play everyone on your team. And I think if you look at the games played, you'll see a lot of his players have more than 10 games played. And, we don't calculate time on ice in the RSL and JSL, which is, very big downfall because that's a really important feature. Considering in JSL that you need a period, a lot of these players, they might be playing for 5 minutes and only have a chance at, one or two scoring opportunities. So they see a bit more of a diverse spread in terms of points. He has, player with 11 goal points, a player with 8 points, who's a defenseman. Yeah, it gets more spread out because he's playing all his guys because he knows that he'll take the playoffs no matter what. So I think Master Metroid's done a really good job in terms of playing every player, whereas you see some other teams like Lake Erie, sorry to call people out, but I mean Lake Erie has a lot of players who are, returning, we'll say fallen RSL veterans who, are getting more playing time than other players. You'll see a few people on this team with only a couple of games played. So I credit Master Metroid's diverse play.
See,
you
say that, but then you look at the Texas Stars, and whereas the Sea Dogs have 6 players with more than 10, the Texas Stars have 7 players with more than 10. So you could say Toaster as a GM has been doing a better job of doing the same thing, while still
absolutely.
I believe they got a higher seed than the Sea Dogs.
Yeah,
They did.
Yeah. So I don't know. It goes both ways. I think I still think the Texas Stars will come on top.
Can I just cut in here?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. by all means.
So
No,
I think that St. John's has a really good defense first mentality, and that's sort of why their shots are like their shots against average for the talent that they have spread out on the team is really low. It's third in the league, which is not super great, but seeing as there's only 4 teams, it's 5.33. But their shooting efficiency is half the shots that they shoot go in the net, and that means when they have opportunities, they tend to be really good ones, and they get 5 shots a game, and they 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 play really well. When I played against them, they do pass really well, and I think Texas I do think that their goaltending and defense is kind of suspect, and I think that Bear can kind of carry St. John's to victory in this series, but he's really got to be the one to step up.
Do you think Bear is better suited outside of the net than in the net for St. John's?
I didn't
I do.
watch their
I do.
game.
I think he had something like a 16% save percentage, something ridiculous
Yeah.
like that.
I think. I mean, I
He's
don't think.
played poor.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, it's at 15%. He's got on the stats so far, which are not updated. He's only made 1 save on 6 shots or 7 shots. Which I think is from the first 2 games. I think the third game isn't put in here.
Yeah, I believe the stats from Wednesday are not in yet, so everything you see there are the stats from Monday.
I
So
think
he was
Bear.
pulled for that third game.
I think Bear is definitely the best, better suited outside of the net, and you can have someone like Canoodles take over because if they're desperate for offense, Bear does have a scoring touch, and if they're having trouble finding the back of the net, then he's the guy they need to step up.
All right, good insight. Anyone else? Anything on Texas and